love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? Do you wanna share them with me? I love you, oh loves. Oh, do you have thoughts? I'd like to share mine with you. Can we share like lovers do? Underneath the painted blue moon, oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you want to share with me? Share with me too. I love you, oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share them with me? 'Cause I've got dreams to share with you. Come and let's share some fantasies. I love you, oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share them with me? I love you, oh loves, do you have thoughts? I wanna share mine with you. Please share me with you too. I wanna be with you. I love you, oh loves. Night after our eyes met, I seen you best time yet. You stood in the sun. I knew you were my woman. When I dreamed that night, I held you oh so tight. Your arms held me like the blankets I ever knew. When I was a baby, you wrapped in my mom's arms, and every night all I did was dream of you. And now you know, 'cause you seen me too well. You wanna go and share your whole life and dreams with me too. Oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share with me too? Do you, and oh loves, do you have thoughts? I know I do. Come and share. Can you come and be with me too? I wanna share them with you. Oh loves, ooh, share with me too.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can scratch. With this AI, like scratching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
We're
Sometimes.
scrunched.
Move over, man. Move over.
No, I want to see you in all your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
glory.
I gotta be over here. So you can see my Cherry Garcia shirt, right? There you go. Good stuff. Welcome everyone to Talking Shh IT. Shh,
Highly educational.
highly educational. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today, and I think much of it has to do with picking and guitar, but we have other things to talk
Actually,
about as well.
all of it has
Ah,
to do with picking and guitar. It's
nice.
Guitar Night, the sequel.
Yep, yep. And there's plenty of good stuff from plenty of people and plenty of different styles to look at. But I think we're going to start with a couple different things, right? Like one is some odd picking styles or people who have strange picking techniques that might not be standard, but ones that can improve your playing, ones that are weird guitarists, weird picking techniques.
Yeah, I chose this one to start with just because it's a nice overview of all the different techniques we're going to be talking about. And it comes from Stevie T, which I know you must have been to his channel on YouTube. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Yep, yep.
funny, killer guitarist, great interpretation of music.
Mm-hmm.
He actually gets a doubleheader tonight.
Nice.
We're starting with him, and then we're going to be going to him a little bit later on because I think he's the one for sweep picking.
Nice. Yep, yep.
So Stevie gets a double mention tonight.
Double. Yep, yep. So we got sweep picking. We've got just regular arpeggios. We've got what?
I
Probably.
actually tried really hard
Mhm.
as I was searching through these. I used this list from Zing Instruments on the 8 types. They basically classified it down to 8 types.
Nice.
And as I was searching around, I wanted to find some fresh new channels, which we do. There's only
Yep.
like 2 in here that you might recognize, but this is a good range of videos on what each picking technique does.
Hmm.
So
A
we've
good
got some
introduction.
from yeah, we've got some from Marty Music.
Nice.
He's gonna be showing us the different picks,
Yeah, yep.
which is gonna be important for everything that we're gonna talk about.
And I was saying, Marty is
And
one of the earliest ones that I found with guitar teaching on the internet for me, personally, when I started looking into guitar.
yeah, see, he was new for me until you were like, "Oh, Marty."
Exactly.
Alfred Potter guitar. He's going to be talking about the alternate picking technique. Carl Golden music, tremolo picking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Introduction to cross picking guitar. Banjo Ben Clark. This was a cool site.
Nice.
I like me my bluegrass.
And that's where you get some speed in there too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Surprisingly, it's dealing with country, but you could easily apply it to metal.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of metal, Monday Guitar Motivation, Steve Stine's guitar lessons. He's going to
Hmm.
be doing the down picking, explaining down picking,
Nice.
and hybrid picking with guitar Versum,
Hmm.
Sandra Sherman,
All right. A
and
bunch of new
back to
folks for me.
Stevie T, sweep
Yep.
picking. And we all know Jake,
Oh yeah.
Signals Music Studio.
Love him.
If I can find an excuse to like grab one of his videos, he fits into every topic.
And that's an important one as well because that'll help with anyone with any style, really. Economy picking, not wasting motion, making sure to do the least movement possible to get done what you need to get done and get the sound that you want. But it helps you to build up speed in places where you might have thought you were going as fast as you could, but you can all of a sudden get a lot faster just by doing things more economically.
Yeah, yeah, and he really does his homework when he talks about something.
Yeah.
And last one, which actually we're going to do right after our intro video, what's the difference between finger style and finger picking? Because finger picking is different than the other picking that we're going to be talking about. This one comes from Justin Hatt, and I'm curious actually, like what is the difference between finger style and finger picking?
Hmm.
Because I haven't heard that term finger style.
We shall see.
So our first one,
Hmm.
going back to Stevie T, uh, uh, he's going to talk about the top 10 guitarists with weird picking techniques. So some of these might be considered weird picking techniques.
Right.
And
Very
he might mention some of these techniques and guitarists who've utilized them through the years. And one thing I noticed as I was searching through all these different techniques, some of them lend themselves to certain genres. So, you know, I guess with like, you know, the down picking, people associate it with metal. Like, oh, it's a metal technique, and James Hetfield invented it. Although I seen videos where they say no, James Hetfield actually wasn't the first person to do this. But each of these techniques lend themselves to certain genres, but can be applied to all genres.
Sure. And even if someone's not the first to do it, maybe they're the first to, you know, popularize it in their style of music, for example. You know, that kind of thing can make people mistakenly think that somebody invented something, even though it's been done before by other people in different styles, but they might have, you know, made it the big thing for their style.
Yeah, Hetfield basically gets associated with it because he did it so much. And afterwards, everybody started doing it.
Right. And the question is, can you sound like Hetfield without doing it? And if the answer is no, then it is, you know, an integral part of the style. So,
and I actually watched a video as I was going through these where that's what the guy was talking about, like how to do Hetfield without doing the down picking. So I guess you can.
Yeah. Anything's possible. Even things that are in like alternate tunings. I've seen people just do it in regular tuning just because they worked it out. They just, you know, figured it out and just, you know, hit the highlights of what you need to. Because a lot of times you just need to outline the chord shapes. And if you're not doing super extended jazzy chords, then things are pretty simple to outline and pretty simple to just say, okay, here's the 1 chord, here's the 4 chord, here's the 5 chord, whatever you're doing, and make it all work from there.
Yep. So we'll start with the top 10 guitarists with weird picking techniques, and then we'll look at the different styles of picks, and then we'll get into the techniques themselves.
Nice.
Stevie T, top 10 guitarists with weird picking techniques.
Hey, I'm Stevie T, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 guitarists with the weirdest picking techniques. You know, I actually got inspired to do this video because I saw this picture online showing the correct way to hold a pick, and I was like, that's not how I hold a pick. See, apparently this is the correct way to hold a pick, but I hold a pick kinda like this. So I'm like, what the heck, am I playing guitar wrong? And then I started thinking about all the other amazing guitarists in this world with weird picking techniques, hence today's video. Now I have to set the record straight that just because these following guitarists have weird picking techniques does not mean that I think they suck. Or that I'm making fun of them. Because the fact is, I'm a huge fan of every single guitarist on this list, so lay off! Sinister Gate of Avenged Sevenfold, for those of you who don't know. It looks like someone's picking with their foot. I like that. I'm into it. Now here's what one of you had to say about Sinister Gate's picking style. The old Sinister for sure. He holds it like an old lady a cup of coffee. That is very, very true. Okay, so he doesn't have the weirdest picking style ever, but I find his sweet picking technique to be super entertaining and super silly pants. I love how when he's sweet picking upwards, his fingers just go wee, wee, wee. Oh, he's playing normal now. What the heck? Oh, he just slipped into it again. The only depressing thing is that over the years, Sinister Gates doesn't really pick like that anymore. What the heck, man? Why couldn't you just stick with the way you were picking before? It was just so fun. Now, I reference Kirk Hammett a lot in my videos, and it's only out of love. You know, I love the Kirkland. But there are a lot of people out there who don't like Kirk. And it's not because they think his solos sound the same or that he uses too much wah. It's because he's constantly flipping everybody off. It's freaking rude. Even James Hetfield is offended. Now the Kirk Hammett picking technique, super easy to do. All you gotta do is go. Okay, so you're constantly flipping people off. Is it because you hate everyone? Okay. Now, do you feel that this is the best way to release your aggression? Okay. I don't see what's so weird about his picking. It looks absolutely normal to me. Oh my god! What the heck is going on? Oh. What's wrong with that thumb? He broke his thumb. He definitely broke his thumb, yes? Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders is not only one of the greatest guitarists of our time, but he's also got some wacky thumbage action going on. Yeah, that's a 90-degree angle right there. That's messed up, man. Is that a normal thing people can do with their thumb? Oh, come on. Oh my god. Oh! Ooh, get out! Oh, great! Now I have dub joint nophobia. The fear of people with double jointed thumbs! I feel like it's gonna stand up and spit venom at me or something. So let's call this the broken thumb technique. Let's see if I can play like that. I think that's gonna be as much thumb bendage as I'm gonna get. Or something. Everyone knows Michelangelo Badio as the guy with the double guitar neck. The guy can play upside down, left-handed, right-handed, overhand, and underhand, both necks at the same time, and at frickin' 500 miles per hour. But what a lot of people might not have noticed is his odd picking style. Now his picking style is different because he only moves his picking fingers. That's so friggin' weird, but so frickin' amazing at the same time. His fingers don't move.
It doesn't move.
They don't move.
It doesn't move.
They don't move.
It doesn't move.
They don't frickin' move! Sorry, that was aggressive. You know, his picking style is like if you were to tickle your nipple. Why did I do that? Since you can't see the pick and it's kind of nipple pinchy, we're gonna call this technique the Shy Pick Nipple Pinch. I can't do this one at all! Damn it! And I gotta say, Michelangelo Badio, what's with the hair? The only thing funnier than your picking technique is your hair. But I guess who cares when you can play guitar like that? Okay, so apparently the guitarists of Metallica have odd picking techniques. James Hetfield, though, is known as the king of down picking. For real though, the rest of us would have carpal tunnel and our wrists would fall off before he even breaks a sweat. Oh! Like, look at that down picking, he never gets tired. James Hetfield, you crazy. Somebody help me. Now the goofy thing about James Hetfield is he doesn't use 2 fingers to hold a pick. He uses 3. Something along the lines of this. That is really, really interesting. Edward Van Halen. He's arguably the greatest guitarist of all time. He brought tapping to the masses. But when he's not tapping, he has some less than conventional picking techniques. Especially when he's trem picking. Now the thing about Eddie Van Halen's trem picking is he doesn't hold a pick like this. He holds it with his middle finger and thumb, like so. And then he kind of dangles his arm over top of the guitar body and just kind of does a back and forth motion like this. Like if you were to go, meh. So, what do you think about Eddie Van Halen's picking technique? Meh. So let's see if I can play the meh picking technique. How did I do? Meh. Don't worry everyone, we got a jazz guitarist here, nothing to worry about. Now what's interesting about Pat's technique is he doesn't seem to pick a note, he like flicks it. You know, as if there was like a bug on your guitar that you want to flick off. Phew. Go on, get, what good are you? Wait a minute, is he using all upstrokes? That's really odd. I've never seen a guitarist who favored upstrokes before. Oh, that's a nice set of talons you got there, Mr. Metheny. Do the guitarists have large talons? God, he's amazing though. So we're gonna call this picking technique the cup hand bug flick. Let's see if I can use it. Wow, I gotta say, I freaking hate picking like that! Let's move on. Now Steve Morse is an absolute living legend. He can play anything, this guy. But one of you guys said it best. You said, Steve Morse's right hand is not human. And that is very, very true. His right hand is just downright goofy. It looks so friggin' weird, but it's so amazing at the same time. That is nuts! So because your picking hand is like this, and you're picking like you're pinching a nipple, we're gonna call this the rock-on nipple pinch technique. Let's see if it improves my picking. Not too shabby. They don't call him the god of alternate picking for nothing. What do we got going on? What do we got here? This here is a rare photo of Steve before he had his third and fourth arms amputated. He just got sick of people calling him Goro. Willie Adler from Lamb of God. And let me tell ya, his picking technique is what horror movies are made of. What the? Wow-wee! That is really something! It's like a little chicken hand or something. Or like little claws. Ooh, I just want to scoop it up with a stick and flick it into the woods or something. Ugh! Now one of you said it best. Willie Adler from Lamb of God. His right hand looks like a car crash. That is a perfect analogy. Oh no! How does that even happen? I hope everyone's okay. For some reason, looking at Willie's picking hand, all I can think is... So we're gonna call this picking technique the picking technique. So to give your hand the proper look for this technique, you're gonna take your hand and repeatedly bash it against a wall or a desk until desired results are achieved. Oh! Oh! Oh my god! So let me attempt to play a quick riff with the guitar technique. Oh, come on, Willie! I never said you sucked! Ah, this is just a picture of Willie attempting to pick like Kirk Hammett. Alright, we made it to number 1 on the list. The number 1 guitarist with the weirdest picking technique goes to Marty Friedman. The people have spoken. Wow-wee! That is some kind of wow! Okay, first of all, Marty Friedman is one of the best guitarists of all time. He's one of my all-time favorites. But that picking technique is some kind of f***ery. That right there is a broken wrist if I've ever seen one. Now to pick like Marty Friedman, you have to pretend to put your nuts in a chokehold, and then bring it back down and shred. This is not comfortable at all. Fail! I can't play like that! Well, there you have it. With all this being said, Marty Friedman, you are the frickin' man, and I love you. And that goes for every guitarist on this list. And I think it's amazing to have people out there like you guys to kill the myth that you have to do things a certain way. And if you have a weird picking technique, comment it below and let us know. And please hit subscribe, and not only that, just like Eddie Van Halen's picking technique, ding 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 ding, ring that little notification bell as well, because that's the only way we're gonna be able to connect every single video. And check out my top 10s playlist, because I've done a lot of top 10 videos before, and maybe you'd like to see more of them. So thanks for watching, you guys. I love you. Peace.
And no nipples were actually pinched in the making of this video.
None were harmed, for sure. Man, my face is hurting already. From
I
smiling.
know. He has such a funny approach to his videos. It's why I love his channel.
Absolutely.
It's highly informative and very comedic.
And my favorite takeaway right there is that, just like you said at the end, you know, it's not about doing things exactly the right way. It's about, like, these are all really crazy ways of doing it, but, you know, some people, they do it because their hand is more comfortable that way, and, you know, that's the way to go about it. Is you don't want to do something that makes you uncomfortable. So don't you know, wrap your arm around just like this and do just because somebody else did. If it's not comfortable for you, you know, try to do it your own way and see what works for you. If you have one of those thumbs that bends all the way back to like your ankles, that's, you know, then try to, you know, take the pick that way and put it and see what you got.
And I
Everyone's
really
got their own unique style.
I really like seeing these different styles associated with a guitarist that you know. It helps me to understand that technique better, because I do know those artists. Steve Morse, holy crap, man. I never really looked, we tend to look at the fretting going on and get caught up over there, but man, his technique, like how long did it take you to get to that?
And like you're saying, some of the bluegrass and country guys, they have some serious speed too, you know, like the metal guys do.
And he did mention
crazy.
with the down picking, one thing when I was searching for those, there was a lot of videos talking about carpal tunnel syndrome and the potential of, like, hurting your wrist doing this technique too much, and some of them you do need to be careful.
Yeah, in any of them. I mean, anything, if you start doing it and it starts hurting, you know, back off. Don't do it that much, or give yourself rest, you know, plenty of rest time in between. But if you find something is uncomfortable or causing you pain, you should
Yeah,
stop.
sometimes playing through the pain is
Back
not
down.
the best approach.
Right.
So that was,
And a lot of times,
well, I was going to say,
a lot of times it's too much pressure, where you're just squeezing too hard on notes. If it's a fretted instrument, that can cause you to be more tired more quickly. So figuring out how to press the notes just hard enough to get them to ring out, or even changing the tuning of your guitar. If you down tune or drop D tuning or whatever, that can also help, because it loosens the strings a little bit, so you don't have to push as hard. Different options like that. Now, I think for the next one, we were going to talk about which kinds of guitar picks one might use. So I think we have a Marty video this time, and we'll come in with guitar picks. What kind should you use?
hey,
what's up, you guys? Marty Schwartz here with Marty Music. Thanks for the continued support. We got another Gear Thursday video, and I get a lot of questions about guitar picks, plectrums, picks, you know? These things that we use right here. The first thing I would say, if you're a beginner, I would really encourage you to use a pick. I get asked a lot about beginners that are more used to strumming with their fingers, or it's easier to do that. And it might be easier in the beginning, but I really think you should work on a pick. There's so many benefits to it, and I just think you should do it. Now, if you are a beginner, you really want to start with a nice, light pick. So if you look at this pick right here, actually point it like that. If I held it this way, it'd be called a light pick, and it's got a lot of give to it. This particular pick is actually a Justin Sanderco pick. Look at that. So nice and flimsy. So there's a lot of forgiveness when you strum. You know, and when you are starting to play guitar, you want to kind of start with those easy strummer chords first. And a super light pick's going to help get you going. I think the first 6 months of me playing, I used an extra light pick. It felt really good, you know, like, because I felt like I was strumming away. And then as I started to get into single notes, I moved up to a medium pick, and I used like a tortoise shell, like Fender medium pick for years, first, you know, maybe 5 years of me playing guitar. Here's an example of like such a tortoise shell pick. This one I'd say is probably a heavy, or somewhere in between a medium and a heavy. And you can see it says Quist on it. Brian Ferry Tour 2017. That's our good friend Quist. This isn't a super light pick. He's a shredding, amazing guitar player. He obviously got used to this, which I would say, like I said, it's a medium or a heavy medium. So as you get more into playing guitar and you get a little more experienced, start experimenting with thicker picks until you get one that you're used to. So like I said, I used a medium for a very long time. At some point, I graduated up to one of these, which I used for a very long time. This is the Dunlop Tortex pick. This is a heavy, not the heaviest pick ever, but it's a 1.14 millimeter thick pick. And so there's already not as much give as this light pick. Lots of flex on the light pick. By the time I moved up to the heavy, the 1.14, not as much give. All right. The other thing about these is they come with, when you pull them out of the pack, it's almost like a little powder that comes on the pick, and it makes it so it doesn't slip out of your fingers if your fingers get real sweaty. It just kind of helps you grip the pick a bit. So I used this pick for many, many years, even well into my YouTube video making life. And then I was playing a lot with my buddy Bob Ryan, who's someone I admire a lot and his guitar playing skills, and he was using these. And they're the same thickness, so that was nice. Not a big change for me, 1.14. Also, it has that grippy kind of powder residue, so they don't slip as much, which I like. And so these are the Gators, which if you look at the ones I used to use, they're the same thickness, but the Tortex is just a little bit bigger. The Gator, which I use now, and I've used for probably at least the last 5 or 6 years, it's just a little bit sharper point at the end and just a little bit smaller. There's something about it that I just kind of started to graduate towards. So these picks right here are what I've used, you know, for a good 5 or 6 years now. And I'm just used to it. You know, a big part of it is just what you get used to. Let me show you a few other picks while we're here talking about picks. The weirdest guitar pick that I've ever seen is this one right here. And if you look at it, yes, it is a seashell. And it's exclusively what Ed King uses, who I did a Guitar Tours episode with, who he signed it for me. He plays in Lynyrd Skynyrd, Strawberry Alarm Clock, and he goes to some beach. I want to say it's Florida. I can't remember precisely. I think it's some particular beach somewhere that he goes and he picks out these seashells that are shaped like picks and he uses them as a guitar pick. He loves the way, it does give it a really cool sound. There was a rumor that Billy Gibbons used to use a Mexican peso at one point for a pick. So there are these weird little idiosyncrasies that these artists have out there. And Ed King uses a really thick seashell. Going to break a lot of strings with this pick. But it is really cool. Let's see. I'm not used to it, but... I don't know, but it works for Ed, and Ed is awesome. Great dude. All right, so there's that. And then I have a few, the super shredders, like Eric Johnson, Joe Bonamassa, and then even like the neoclassical guys. I don't know exactly what pick like Michelangelo uses and, Petrucci and all these different guys. But most of the shredders evolve into an even sharper, pointier pick. And a lot of times you call them jazz picks, like the Jazz 2 pick, I think is this elusive red version of this one that Joe Bonamassa uses. I believe, he might have changed it up. But anyway, you got these tiny little, very sharp picks that super shredding fast players use. And yes, I've tried to use them. It didn't make me faster, but it's also a personal preference. But we do have this trend, or at least it seems that most shredders, guys that play super fast, these virtuoso kind of style players tend to use these tiny little sharp Ninja Star picks. What else do I have? Oh, I have a Alice in Chains pick, which is pretty cool. It's really their pick. I have a whole collection somewhere. I played with Slightly Stupid over the summer. Here's the Slightly Stupid pick. It says Slightly Stupid right there. Sounds of Summer 2017. So that was their tour. This is the same size as the Tortex. In fact, it's the same pick as the Tortex. This one I think is even thicker. So the Slightly Stupid guys, they like thick picks. Yes, they do. And then finally, that brings me to a pick that's one of a kind, and you might need to put sunglasses on so it doesn't blind you from its magical aura. Is that? And yeah, obviously that's a novelty pick, the pick of destiny. But man, sure is fun to have one. Yes. All right, that was fun. Different. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you for the support again. Just to recap, if you're a beginner, yes, use a pick. I really encourage you not to avoid the pick. It's going to help you a lot. Use a nice flimsy light pick if you're a super beginner, and then move up into a thicker pick as you start to play single notes and see what is comfortable for you. And obviously, if you end up being a super shredder, you may use one of those tiny little jazz picks. And somehow I've ended up using these, which I don't foresee changing now at this point in time. So anyway, that's that. Thanks again. Leave your requests for other gear you'd like to see or questions that you have, because I like to, give you guys what you want. And we'll see you again real soon.
Close to nothing.
All right.
At Marty Music on YouTube.
All kinds of different plectures. Now, like the real super skinny ones, like, these are probably like 0.6, like less than half a mil. They're like very, very bendy. But then I think the thickest one I was able to find was one of the Gators. It's actually it is one of the 2 mil picks. And it's got a picture of a gator on the front there. And it's really thick. I mean,
Well, and you were telling me you like more medium to thick, right?
Yeah, I do like a thicker pick a lot of times because I'm doing double duty where I'll be using it for guitar and I'll also use it for bass. So for me, just having a pick, I do like the ones that have like these. I'm not sure if you can actually see the texture on it, but these have like a grip, almost like a tire tread
Little
on
grip.
them. Yeah, and it's on there where no matter how slippery the plastic gets, it doesn't matter because it's a texture. It's literally a surface that has stuff sticking out of it, so it just grabs into the fingers, so you don't have to worry about it sliding out anywhere, and it just sticks there. But this one is like a 1.5, so it's also quite thick. It's not as thick as the other, but there's almost no give. Like if as far as when I'm coming through the strings, it's not it's not going flop 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 like the skinny one is. Now the one that I have that most people wouldn't have is this one here, which is made out of felt, and it is super fat. So I mean
Whoa.
that's ridiculously thick. But that one I used like when I was it's actually
But
pretty
with felt's more flexible though, right?
well,
So
this actually isn't, and actually, matter of fact, this there was one that was felt, there's one that's leather, there was one that was rubber, there were a bunch of different ones, but they were all like this fat. And the idea is when you're playing, when you rest the pick back against the string, it mutes it back out. So it's kind of like the hammers we were talking about, the hammers on a piano, or the felt things that like come down and actually silence the notes
yeah,
on
the
a
little
piano.
sustano like
Could be
pedal,
the Sustanato,
the
but
one in the
it's also
middle.
the one in the middle. But it's also if you don't hit any of the pedals, when you hit a note and then when you let go, the thing that comes back down is like little felt that comes back down and hits, and that would be kind of like this pick coming down and landing between two strings and like bloop, and just like silencing it. So it
So
does work for that.
so based on his advice, like if you're starting out on guitar,
Mhm.
better to start with a thinner pick and kind of work your way up to the exact thickness that you're comfortable with.
I agree with that, and I would say that it's also depending on what your plan is. Like if even if you're just starting out on guitar, if you're starting out but your goal is single note lead guitar stuff, it might not be as good to start with a skinny because, as you were saying, it's easier to play faster with the thicker picks. But the idea of starting with the thinner pick is if you're doing like the cowboy chords and just getting used to strumming, because it does, it's more forgiving, and it also gets you used to not letting the pick fly out of your hand. Because at the beginning, a lot of times, if you're just holding a regular, slippery pick, sometimes you just, grab a Fender medium, whatever, and just start playing, and it can just fly out of your hand. And if you don't have another one handy, that can be a problem. But even on these super skinny ones, that also has the max grip on these. So these have the same kind of tire tread. Kind of barely see. But the idea is that when you're holding it, like if you were trying to spin it, you can't even really, I mean, you can spin it if you want to, but it won't spin out of your fingers if you don't want it to come out. So you can have it at whatever angle you want. Now, I can't make my thumbs go backwards the way they did. There was some crazy thumb bend stuff, double jointed thumbs. But I have seen when I first started out, I was definitely having more of the pick sticking out when I was playing and trying to play like this. And it did feel more like flop, 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 flop. And then it felt like it would want to fly out of your hands more. But by having just a very little bit sticking out past the side of the thumb, and a lot of them, I mean, they'll have it where only like the super tiniest little nub is sticking out, so they can just go dugga, 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 and again, minimal motion. One of the videos we're going to watch is about economy picking, and that's about not moving more than you have to. Some of them will also go into different types of picking where, doing 6 notes in each little fill that you're doing. For example, you're starting on a downstroke, and that means you're coming off that 6th note on an upstroke. If you're going dugga, dugga, if you're going back and forth. So it gets you to the point where it makes it easier. You're coming back out of the string, so you don't get tied up in the strings, and you're able to more easily move around. But all
So
that's
it's
in
not
different types.
so it's not just considering like what material, what thickness. It's also how you pinch it, how you
And what you're planning on playing. Like if you're playing all chords, if you're just going to be background, or if you're looking to play leads and solos, if you're playing clean jazz stuff, or if you're looking for distorted stuff, there's a bunch of different considerations about
so
what you would want to use. But
the guys that are doing more of the soloing are kind of choking on the pinch, right? Like they're
I think so, yeah. A lot of
like
them
you
that
would
are,
choking a bat almost.
yep, and leaving just that little bit out. And again, some of them have totally different styles. Where some of them they got their hand all hooked back the other way, and they got a lot of picks sticking out, and but that's what works for them. For I think most people though, they try to leave just a little bit out.
Well, a tiny little bit poking out seems to lend to precision. So if you
Right.
really want to be ultra precise and leave no room for accidentally like hitting anything else, then
Mhm.
the more you're choking up on it, the more precise you're going to get.
And a lot of it comes down to just practice. The more, and everybody has their own techniques. People get into bad habits and they get into good habits. And, again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just like, kind of like with writing. Like if you've seen some people, like if they try to write with, with a pen and they're writing from back here, it's going to be really sloppy because there's so much pen sticking out. But you see some people, they choke like way up and there's just barely the nub sticking out, and then you can get very precise because you're just pushing that around.
Yeah, those are the ones that actually become the font makers and
The calligraphers, yeah.
the calligraphers. Yes.
Good stuff. Now I forget, which one did we want to do after those first two there? We want to jump to.
We're going to jump over to number 10, which is actually dealing with finger picking.
Mhm.
That is, what's the difference between? Here we go. What's the difference between finger style and finger picking guitar? And when it came to looking for the finger picking videos, I mean, there's tons of them compared to all the other techniques we're talking about tonight.
Oh, yeah.
There's more resources out there on how to finger pick, and a lot of the videos were like, here's 4 different finger picking chords or styles, and a lot of those. What intrigued me with this one was he's talking about 2 different finger style versus finger picking, which I was like, there's a difference.
Yep.
But apparently there is.
Yeah. We'll see what they qualify as the difference.
And finger picking, no matter what other styles you do, I think finger picking is important for a guitarist to get comfortable with, even if you don't use it a lot. Some of the other techniques depend on a little bit of finger picking, the hybrid.
Yeah. And I will say that finger picking also lends itself to bass very well. Like a lot of bass playing, is finger style finger picking, using your right hand with no pick, just playing with your fingers. So getting used to it on a guitar is also helpful because it'll help translate to bass if you have to fill in on the bass one day, rather than having to play with a pick. Because a lot of times I'll see at an open jam, if somebody decides, they kind of throw a band together and go up there and somebody's going to play bass, but he's just a guitar player who's now playing bass. So, they put a bass in his hands. He knows what the notes are so he can play it, but he's not playing bass lines. He's playing guitar lines and guitar stuff, but doing it on a bass because, he doesn't know what role the bass is trying to play in the song. He's not used to that. But, the more you get comfortable with the finger style, that also helps with getting that more authentic bass sound from a lot of the people who would play with bass. I mean, there's also people who play with picks, so there's nothing, it's not that you can't play bass with a pick, but it is good to know how to play with finger style.
The bass sounds good either way, but your style is different. A finger picking bassist sounds very different than a pick picking.
Yeah, absolutely. And over time, you also develop muting techniques where you're able to, be able to mute things with the different fingers. Like on a 5-string bass, I have 5 fingers and I have 5 strings. So with my picking hand, I can just have it, with one finger resting on each string. I don't always have to play that way, but if I'm not playing any speed stuff where I need fingers to be going digga back and forth.
Yeah, I think
string on each.
I think the finger picking lends to more flexibility when it comes to what you're going to do. I mean, the picking is good for like the speed and the harder, punchier hits, but the finger picking, like, that's where some of the coolest, like, funk and the
it helps with expressiveness,
snappy bass.
Yep, good stuff.
So this one comes from Justin Hat 1 at YouTube.
All right.
And he's a guitarist, a student, a teacher, all of the above.
Nice. Let's see the difference.
And he's going to talk about the difference between finger style and finger picking guitar.
Right.
Alright, welcome back Hackland fam. I hope you're all doing well, and I'm super excited because I got a little awesome video today that we're going to talk about, and it all came from a question that I got from a student, and I wanted to talk today a little bit about the difference between playing fingerstyle guitar and finger-picking guitar. A lot of people commonly think that this is kind of the same idea, but it's really not. It's kind of two different ideas and two different schools of thought. So I want to kind of zoom in on the fretboard a little bit and kind of talk a little bit about the difference between fingerstyle and finger-picking guitar. So let's zoom in, break it on down. Alright, so we are going to be doing this little demonstration on a beautiful Cremona Fiesta. F65CWSB. You should definitely check this out. I did a review on this guitar. I'm actually a Cremona Guitars artist, so check the link down in the description for that. I love this guitar. Alright, anyway, so let's get into it. So there's kind of like two different schools of thought, and again, this question kind of came to prominence from a student question that really was asked to me about, you know, kind of the difference in the idea of fingerstyle guitar and finger-picking guitar. Now, I always thought they were kind of the same thing, but they are a little bit notably different, so I want to kind of get into that historically. So, fingerstyle guitar is actually the idea of just using all of the fingers and playing the strings solely just with your hand, and your right hand fingers, or left hand if you're a left-handed guitarist. And finger-picking guitar was actually come around the idea of using a thumb pick, so a flat thumb pick and using the finger. So, not terribly much of a difference, but there is some notable differences, so I kind of want to talk about that. And I think another important thing to consider is depending on the genre of music in which you're playing in, because finger picking, in terms of like classical guitar repertoire, is not considered finger picking. It's just considered part of the act of playing it. So if you're playing like classical pieces, for example. We don't really consider that fingerstyle guitar. We just consider that playing the guitar. That's normally how it is in classical guitar repertoire. You don't consider it fingerstyle. You're just playing it. But in fingerstyle music, more like geared towards like popular culture music and stuff, it's usually considered, you know, fingerstyle. So there's a lot of different kind of interpretations that I kind of come to the conclusion of considering what again is finger picking and fingerstyle. I don't really consider myself a fingerstyle or a finger-picking guitar player. Even though I primarily play with my hands, I just consider myself playing the guitar. I don't consider myself in one camp. But a lot of the times when we're thinking about finger-picking, I think about it in terms of just playing a chord progression and picking out the notes of that chord. So, and I played in that intro, I had an E major chord, I had an A major 7 chord, back to an E chord, and then I had a B9 chord with an added sus4 in there, with the open E. And I wasn't really picking out a melody, I was just finger picking those chords. Now, I would consider that finger picking because normally, in some cases, there might be a vocal line over that where I'm just accompanying my vocal line, da da da, you know, whatever I may be singing. And when I think of fingerstyle arrangements, I think of playing all the parts of the chord and the melody. So whatever that song may be, the one that comes to mind is, because I did an arrangement on it not that long ago, is Pure Imagination. Right, so you can hear the melody and the chords, and I would consider that a fingerstyle arrangement. And really, again, the most interesting thing about it is if you look at it from a historical context, there is this idea of playing with a thumb pick, which is kind of, you know, developed like maybe in like the country picking era. We have, you know, like this flat kind of thumb thing. And I've tried playing with thumb picks, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like it. It doesn't really feel that good in my fingers. So I've just been kind of used to playing in this fingerstyle approach, if you will. But again, the context is really interesting because if you're playing like classical repertoire, again, it's not really considered fingerstyle. You're just playing. you're just playing the guitar. And in different styles of music, obviously, there's an importance between using your fingers, like if you're playing like a bossa nova groove. Because there's just going to be a different tone that you're going to achieve. And this is why I like playing with my fingers so much more than I do with a pick, because I can just do so much more, in my opinion, with my fingers. If I was playing with a pick, it'd be really, really hard to achieve that. I suppose you could... You just can't get the subtleties in it, right? Or, you know, there's certain things that you can pick with different melodies. There's just certain things that you can't emulate with a pick that you can with your fingers. And one thing that I have started to become more in the habit of doing is actually using my first fingernail as a guitar pick. So what I actually do is I kind of round my finger, and I will use that as a pick. So if I'm, you know, playing through a scale passage, and you get a different tone, right? Here's just with fingers. Different kind of tones, right? Here's that with... You get totally different kind of sound. But again, it's this idea about where our fingers are being used. You know, in the style of music. If you're playing like traditional classical Spanish guitar music, you use your fingers. There's really, really hard things that you can't do if you're playing with a pick. It's all about the styling in which you're playing in, which I think is really interesting. So if you kind of look at like the history of guitar, when guitar was first around, like this right here, this is kind of like a traditional guitar design, right? And so when guitar was first started playing, it was actually played with gut strings, not nylon strings. So actually internals of, you know, cattle and sheep and stuff like that. And you never played with a pick. Picks are fairly, you know, new kind of idea about playing music. And so that's why for me, as like trying to kind of bestow and you know, kind of observe the traditional aspect of playing guitar, I'm such a big fan of playing with the fingers. So let me kind of like play a couple little jam ideas here, and just kind of show you exactly, again, why I love fingerstyle guitar so much. Alright guys, that was the video. I hope you really liked it. Let me know what you'd like to see next, and make sure that if this is the first time that you've ever come across my channel, definitely subscribe. Check out all the cool stuff that I have down in the description. I post new videos every single week all about talking about guitar music and helping you on your musical journey. Enough of that being said, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
Whoa, did you see his technique there at the end on that last round?
Exactly.
Oh,
I've
that
seen
kind of flamenco style. I mean, he was spreading it across the bottom half, slapping the top, and moving up. Dude, very cool.
the percussive style. I really like that, filling in like that. And there are a few different styles, like the flamenco style, as you mentioned. I've seen a few other types of styles that kind of feed into that, where they're using the acoustic guitar or whatever guitar as a percussion instrument, I mean, as it is, but like really using it in that way where they are slapping it and getting a really good sound out of it. One thing I will say is I never had the long nails thing going on, like to get like being able to pluck with the nails.
You noticed that, huh?
Yeah, but I do pluck with. I mean, I've seen it in a lot of people, but I'm not opposed to just playing with my fingers as far as or playing with the fingers. Doing it as like a pinch is one thing. Like I'm gonna do that, like no, not that one. We'll do it the other way, where we'll get it from over here, because that way kind of see it there, but we'll see. Yeah. Thank you. But basically getting it where we can do like a pinch where you're getting multiple fingers kind of pulling in towards each other. So you can just do like any chord that you're holding, you can just kind of, so you get a lot of control over it, where you can, silence the chord either by letting go with the left hand a little bit or by re-grabbing the strings with this hand. But you can also just using the back of the fingers, like just like coming down through it and then using the thumbnail coming back up. So you can kind of strum like that, which pretty much sounds similar to how it would sound if I did use a pick. Just because you get more, it's a little bit louder with the pick. But if you're using the fingers coming back down with the nails, it's still louder than it is if you use the flesh of the fingers.
Well, yeah, the way he grew his nails on his right hand, he's basically growing his picks out of his fingers.
Right.
Because his left hand, those nails are short, but his right hand, he actually had the nails necessary, purposely long.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people do that. So it's not just one particular style of music that does that. I mean, I've seen a lot of people do that, but at the same time, for me, I've also seen like bass players where they had literally no fingernails, where they were the kind that like chewed them down to where there's nothing nearly sticking out, so it was all just a fleshy nub at the end, so that they could just everything was all just the fleshy parts hitting the strings. And I mean, for me, I have reasonable nails, but I don't grow them. I don't purposely grow them long, but I also I try to keep them short, just because on the piano, for example, back when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, pain in the ass on piano.
I had piano teachers that if they heard the click clack of fingernails, they would stop you immediately and hand you a nail clipper and say, "Go, clip your nails, come back."
Yeah, I don't like my nails long when I'm playing the piano.
Exactly.
So would you say the primary difference between the finger style versus the finger picking? With the finger style, like he was mentioning, it's more towards traditional classical guitar and music like that, whereas with the finger picking, it's more actually simulating strumming and picking with your hands, with your fingers.
Yeah, and I think it's not even so much of a huge distinction. Like the idea is, if you're playing, you're playing without a pick is one of the main ideas, and how you're having that sound come across. But also there are certain things that you can do with hammer-ons and pull-offs that are things that you'll hear in like Leonard Skinner and country songs, where they'll be like diddle diddle, like doing little triple notes like that, where you're actually just playing two notes, but they're pull-offs, and the third note is actually pulling off to the open string. So you're going, you're strumming a fret, and then pulling off to another note, and then pulling that off to an open string. So and you get like three notes out of just one strum. So you can really go like and like work your way down really fast with only having
Led Zeppelin, the Rain song. He does that.
Yeah, several of those. Yeah. Several places where you'll see that happening. But like as you hear it and as you recognize it, like you'll hear certain moves where you'll be like, oh yeah, that's one of those things where just in one little box you can go and like have it all in one place. but as you play them, you'll recognize them and be able to throw them in, sprinkle them into your playing as the secret sauce, the spice in what you're doing.
Well,
Good
that
stuff.
was Justin Hat
Mhm.
at Justin Hat 1 on YouTube. He's also justinhatmusic.com. Got his own website. Good stuff. That's another freshie for us.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. Always like finding new pages.
Yeah, really did find a bunch of new channels tonight.
Hmm.
This one was another new one, Alfred Potter guitar.
Hmm. This is on the alternate picking, right?
Alternate pick. How to alternate pick beginner's guide.
Nice.
Which is really what I was trying to look for, is like nothing too like wildly. Some of these techniques are more advanced, so it's kind of hard to have like a beginner's guide if the technique itself is advanced.
Right.
But it's nice to get a grasp of the technique before you start looking at how to shred it.
Yeah. And as they mentioned earlier, some people do have, more of an all downstroke technique, and other people had almost an all upstroke technique. And this is talking about alternate picking, which would be the back and forth. So getting you accustomed to going up and down and when to jump strings and stuff like that is probably all baked in here as well.
Yep. And he's at Alfred Potter Guitar on YouTube, and he will actually teach you how to play guitar. No clickbait, no memes.
Just
We
straight
like
learnings.
Yes,
Straight
we
learning.
like that. So,
Good stuff.
how to alternate pick beginner's guide.
Well, this is exciting. This is a brand new video series on how to alternate pick. So this is going to follow the same kind of progression as my other series, How to Sweep Pick, where we start off with the basics, the introduction video, and then we get more complex as we go in subsequent videos. So yeah, even though this is the introduction lesson, there's a hell of a lot to get through. So let me just put up on screen now and read off the content of this introduction lesson. So, alright, so we're going to cover pick slants, rest strokes, relaxation, true picking motion, pick depth, pick grip, anchoring, pick angle, picking path, picking hand muting, and then finally to top it all off, we're going to just get stuck in with a basic single string exercise. So yeah, there's a lot to get through, a lot to learn, but hopefully we have some fun along the way. Though I doubt we will, because alternate picking is a real pain in the ass. Have you ever heard someone say that you need to pick perfectly flat, with your pick up and down, moving side to side, parallel with the guitar body? Well, this is wrong. So wrong. Look what happens when you try to cross to a new string using this method. You get trapped. So what you have to do is pick on one of two pick slants. This is a downward pick slant, a downward diagonal slant. The downstrokes are trapped, sure, but look at the upstrokes. They rise up into the air. This is so you can cross to new strings on upstrokes. Now the opposite is the upward pick slant. This time you're picking on the opposite diagonal angle. The upstrokes are trapped and the downstrokes shoot up into the air. So this time you can cross to a new string with a downstroke. Now I know this is just an introduction lesson focusing on single string playing, but you'll need to practice both of these slants so that you're ready for when we finally get onto multi-string playing. So here are the pick slants in real life. This is what they look like. This is the downward pick slant, picking on this downward diagonal angle. So it's not flat like this. It's like a downward diagonal slant. And here's the opposite, upward pick slanting, where we flip over, and now we're picking on this slant. Now you may notice that I'm resting up against the neighboring string. Let's introduce that right now. It's called a rest stroke. So I'm using rest strokes. I'm resting on the downstroke for downward pick slanting. So there I rest up against the next thinnest string, the next neighboring string, and then upstroke into the air, and then Downstroke, I rest against the next string, upstroke into the air. And what this does is it develops very early on, an insane level of accuracy. And it also gives you like a guide. It gives your picking hand and your pick like a guide track on which to run, on which to develop your muscle memory. And then at faster speeds, of course, as your motions get smaller, you won't even use wrist strokes anymore. But they really are useful early on. So yeah, downward pick slanting, you rest on downstrokes. Upward pick slanting is, again, opposite. So with upward pick slanting, you rest on upstrokes. So definitely work these into your playing. Now let's talk about true picking path. Now, a lot of teachers and talented guitar players out there will tell you, even if they don't know this is not what they're doing, they'll tell you that they pick with like a waving motion, just up and down of the wrist. I'm telling you right now, that's not true at all. That's not what they're doing, because you can't do that very fast. Pick up any speed at all, and you'll instantly turn into this rotational motion, which is what the true picking motion is. Even if they do this at slow speeds as a demonstration, this like up and down wrist motion, that's not what it is. It's a slight rotational wrist motion, like a rotation of the forearm. Now, I know it's hard to see like front on. You look at it front on, right? It looks like I'm moving my wrist up and down. So you'd be forgiven for thinking that. And this fools everyone. It fooled me as well. But when you watch it side on, it is like a rotational motion. So, yeah. And if you look at my animations, you'll see that they follow a slight curved rotational path. And that's very deliberate. I put that in there purposefully. Now, the final thing I want to talk about in this little section here is relaxation. You may think you're being relaxed, but I mean you really play with relaxation. I really mean it, okay? Any tension will just slow you down to an absolute crawl. My brother, Gus, he gave me the perfect quote on this. I think it's his quote, or his drumming teacher's quote, perhaps. Anyway, he said, "A tense muscle is a slow muscle." So remember that. Be perfectly relaxed. Remember not to pick with too much of the pick. Don't pick too deeply, because you might get caught. And the pick won't even make it through. Instead, lift the pick up and just tickle the tops of the strings. I like to think of this as alternate tickling rather than alternate picking. Reduce that pick string resistance the best you can. Let's take a look at the picking hand, or my picking hand in particular. I use a standard grip, and I anchor ever so gently with my pinky and my ring finger just outside the high E string, about halfway between the pickups. I use a very slight pick angle. You see, it's not flat, because you should never really do that in terms of pick string resistance, but it's definitely not one of those huge, like 45-degree or more angles that you see some players using. And although this won't apply in this lesson because we're just focusing on single string playing, this is my pick path here. So it's not in line with the pickup, it's actually got quite a positive lean. And there's a good reason for this, but this will become relevant, as I said, when we move on to multi-string playing. So this is the path that my pick tracks across the strings as I play, regardless of whether I'm sweep picking or alternate picking through scales. Muting surfaces. Now, some of you might have already seen my video on this called Clean Guitar Playing, String Muting, but it's worth going over this again. Fretting hand muting, well, that's just where you mute the higher strings not being played with the fleshy underside of your fretting hand's index finger. For downward pick slanting, the muting is done with a palm mute. No surprises there, right? Upward pick slanting muting is a little bit more complicated. So to get from downward pick slanting to upward pick slanting, you just do a quick little rotation of the forearm, and that places a new part of your hand in contact with the strings. So this is what I found I do when I mute with upward pick slanting. So the majority of it is done with the meaty chicken drumstick of the thumb. But I've noticed that the side of the knuckle of the thumb also jumps in to help mute, especially on the higher strings. And then when I'm playing on the lower strings, there's a tiny bit of the middle of the lower palm that joins in to assist. It's really quite complicated, but this is the best that I could give you, the most accurate that I could give you, of my upward pick slanted musing. So here's the exercise, but don't get excited. It's very boring, but very effective, as all of my, well, most of my exercises are. So it's just going to be a very simple quad picking chromatic exercise on a single string, with downward pick slanting first, and wrist strokes. Don't forget wrist strokes. And then of course you want to do it with upward pick slanting as well. Start with an upstroke for this one. No particular reason, but just to mix it up. Resting on upstrokes now, remember. And that's the exercise. That's it. Not very exciting, but that's kind of the point. You don't want to have a really engaging fretting exercise when what you're trying to focus on is the picking hand, right? So keep the focus on the picking hand and really get those motions going. Remember, just use the tip. Focus on just using the tip of the pick. Use wrist strokes for now. Remember to keep that nice true picking motion, that slight rotation there. And be totally relaxed as well. Don't tense up. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and good luck with the exercise. However, if you're super eager to get into even more exercises, please consider going and purchasing and downloading my ebook, my PDF, 40 Developmental Alternate Picking Exercises. They'll really help you and get you on the right track. And that's available, as I said, for purchase and download, and it's just $5 from my website. Thanks very much.
He just tipped us there at the end.
He did. I noticed that.
Well, that was a nice example. See, with this kind of tutorials and instruction videos, it's real important to be able to, see at the different camera angles, the examples and the slant and his charts. Nice way to put together instructions for something like this.
Yeah. And that is something that, again, it's not that there's right and wrong ways to do things, but it's being aware of what things are slowing you down or what things will help you speed up if that's what you're going for. Not everybody's looking to be the super speediest they can be, but a lot of it has to be with with accuracy. And for me, like I was saying, at the beginning, I would be very tired with the fretting hand because I was squeezing too hard, essentially, and that'll also bend the notes a little bit sharp, but it also gets you tired more quickly, and wears your fingers out faster, all that stuff. So getting accustomed to playing only as hard as you need to play, only push as hard as you need to, and being able to cleanly get jump from notes to notes without necessarily getting all that string squeak. Because at the beginning, also, if you're hitting this note, then you up to this note, and then down to that note, you should be able to cleanly play a note, mute it, get to the next note, play it cleanly, mute it, get to the next note. But doing that very quickly and without having it sound like you're doing it mechanically.
Yeah, and I liked his analogy on tickling.
Yeah.
Just tickle the
Tickle the tops of the
string.
strings. Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it. And again, my picking is definitely not the strongest part of my guitar playing at this point, because I've played so much bass over time and less of the guitar. But then when I go back to the guitar, the finger playing on the bass really helps out to play guitar with my fingers. But when I do get a pick involved, a lot of times it's just to be able to play a little bit louder. Like if I am playing at a jam or whatever, and I happen to get on guitar, I'll try to I'll use a pick just so that I can get louder if I want to play a solo. And if I'm playing just with the fingers, I'm not used to keeping the volume below 100% so that I have more to go when it's time to hit a solo or whatever. So I would already be at maximum volume playing with, just the flesh of the fingers. And then it's solo time and you wouldn't hear me playing in solo. Like I could, dig in as hard as I want and you wouldn't hear it as much as if I had a pick, because a pick definitely amplifies that sound for you.
So you bring out the pick to boost the volume.
Right. But I could also get sound checked, like without being at 100% on the controls on the guitar, have the guitar controls at like 70% and have that be the comfortable, volume for my regular playing. And then when it's time to solo, I can bring that extra 30% in as much as I need, or even half of it or whatever.
Yeah, it's good to have the ability to boost when you need
exactly.
to. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not used to that, but that's something that I'm, developing into, because the main thing is when I'm playing bass, I have everything set where, the loudest I want to get is, and I have everything at 100% when I start. And then when I need to get quieter, I can play almost imperceptibly quietly, even at full volume, with the volume controls at full volume, just by playing softly with my hands. So that's where you can, quiet it down just by playing more quietly, muting more, all that kind of stuff. So I can keep a lot of the control there. So if somebody says turn down, I'll be like, okay, and that just means I'll, play, 10% more quietly. That's fine. I don't have to touch the controls to make it happen. But if they don't see me touch the controls, they don't believe me that I turned down. So it's like, all right, I'll just touch the controls and pretend I turned it down and then just play more quietly.
I feel better when they say turn up.
They almost always do. Like, that's the thing, is I've always been, not hiding in the back as a bass player, but more concerned about being too loud, because so many bass players do overplay or play too loud, and the place is just freaking vibrating, and everyone's going crazy, and the place comes running over like no. So like I would rather have them, the people in the band turn around and say, hey, turn up a little bit so I can hear you better. And it's like, all right, then I'm glad to turn up more so that people can hear me, but I don't want people to have to tell me to turn down because I'm playing too loudly, because by the time they tell you that, they're already pissed off in a lot of cases, because they were dealing with it all right. If they were already coming up to you saying, hey, could you turn that down? It means they've already, you've already done too much.
Yeah. So that was at Alfred Potter Guitar on YouTube, and I'm betting you he's coming out of Australia. I'm getting good at recognizing those Aussie.
We'll test you on that later.
Yeah, good tutorial. That helped me to understand alternate picking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, like with all the different styles, there's so many different ways to do it, but the main thing is, for whatever style of music you're trying to do, and you can also get out of your comfort zone. Just like if you're always playing with a pick and you're always doing a certain style, maybe try playing with your fingers and see what it inspires for you, because it may bring out a whole new thing. Like, oh, all of a sudden I'm playing, a salsa thing, or all of a sudden I'm playing, whatever, something that's out of your normal wheelhouse, let's say.
Well, trying these picking techniques, if you haven't, it's going to lend itself to playing differently. You might find you're good at a certain style that you never played just because you're learning this technique.
Exactly. Good stuff.
Now, this one, I'm actually more curious after watching Stevie's video earlier, because this is the Eddie Van Halen picking technique.
Some tremolo picking, huh?
Which is like the first guitar god of mine.
There we go. Good stuff.
Yeah, this one comes out of Carl Golden Music, another freshie.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
At Carl Golden on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Music teacher and author, here to inspire and be inspired, like the attitude.
Yeah.
So we're gonna learn fast tremolo picking on guitar from beginner to intermediate. Again, you gotta walk before you run.
That's right. Let's check it out.
Hey guys, welcome to another video lesson. One of my subscribers had a request how to tremolo pick because I'm not very consistent. So that's what we're going to be looking at today in this lesson. So what you heard at the beginning of this video is a great example of tremolo picking in a rock style. It's a form of alternate picking where you continuously pick up and down like this. Tremolo picking quite simply uses this technique at a very fast tempo, and it creates a kind of wavering sound like a tremolo pedal, hence the name tremolo picking. A great example of this being used in a popular song is Mizzaloo by Dick Dale. I hope I said that right. Mizzaloo? Mizzalooa. This technique is used a hell of a lot in surf rock, heavy metal, Latin music, and of course rock, but you can find it in any genre of music. It's definitely a technique you should learn. It's quite a demanding and difficult technique to learn at first, but don't give up. You'll get there. It's definitely worth it because it does sound incredible, and once you nail it, you're going to feel like a rock god. So don't give up, and if you follow this video, you'll be tremolo picking in no time, I promise. The key is to start slow and be super accurate. Your metronome is your best friend. In this video today, I'm going to be mostly using the Beat Buddy, which is an awesome pedal. It's basically a drum machine. You can change the tempo to anything you like. I find personally this keeps me more focused on practice, but a metronome will do the job perfectly if that's all you have. First of all, before we look at exercises, let's look at our right hand or our picking hand. When I'm tremolo picking, I like to rest my palm on the bridge of the guitar like this. It gives me a good anchor point to get to the strings. You can do it here. However, you can do whatever feels comfortable to you. Of course, Van Halen has this very odd technique where he kind of plays his wrist down here. I personally can't get on with that, but to be fair, I haven't really practiced it. So I recommend resting on the bridge like so. And every time without fail, I seem to be very accurate by doing that. I can still do it without resting on the bridge, but I don't feel like I'm very accurate. But to be fair, I'm still resting my palm on the guitar body as well. In terms of the plectrums that you use, I'm using a 1.40mm Ernie Ball Everlast pick. I don't know if you can see it there. This is quite a thick, sturdy pick, so you might not like it. Maybe if you're a beginner, you can go for something like this, which is a 0.73mm. It's quite bendy, so when you're doing your tremolo picking, it gives you a little bit of leeway. I never use light picks personally. Let's get rid of that. Just in case you're a complete beginner, let's go through how you hold a pick quickly. So pretend you've got a gun like this. Put your plectrum on top of your first finger like that, and then put your thumb on top, and then you've got a little bit of the edge showing like this. That's how I hold my pick in a nutshell. Okay, so what we want to do next, when I'm picking, I don't keep adjacent to the strings like this. I actually angle my plectrum downwards like this. I highly recommend this technique when you're picking, not only for tremolo picking, but also for sweep picking and just alternate picking in general. The slanted pick really helps you stop getting stuck on the strings while you're doing the fast up and down motion. Up and down. I suggest practicing like this with an open ear just to get used to it. This way you can concentrate on your right hand and you've not got to worry about your left hand or your fingering hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at 100 BPM, 100 beats per minute, and we're going to be playing quarter notes. So that means we're going to be playing on the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to be going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up constantly. So let's get a beat going at 100 BPM. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so next up we want to play eighth notes. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've done our quarter notes, our 8th notes. Let's now do our 16th notes. So that will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under. Let's do that. So down, up, down, 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 down. I can't say that. Anyway, so it's 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under. So the idea is you start off super slow while you're playing to your metronome or drum beat, and you gradually build up your picking. So eventually you're going to get to a high tempo where you're going to really struggle. Now this is important. So let's say you start at 100 BPM and you absolutely fine even with the 16th notes. Put it up a notch, put it to 105, do the same thing. Let's say you get to 140 BPM, you're really struggling and messy when you get to your 16th notes. This is going to be the point you need to make a note of. So put that in your diary. Today I got to this BPM and I struggled with it. So I was good at, let's say, 125. So the next day, what you want to do is practice the same thing again and see if you can get a few beats per minute faster. And keep making note of this every day, and I guarantee after a week or two you'll be doing maybe 10 BPM or 20 BPM faster. And a few weeks later, out of nowhere, you'll be going. One thing I really want to make clear, make sure you're not straining your wrists. You'll notice that I'm very relaxed. It's all in the wrist. I'm not moving this arm, there's no tension here at all. And I like to keep my fingers closed like this. I used to have them open like this, but I found that since I've been closing them up like this, it's really helped with my technique. So I recommend you do this. I was using this for years. It looks really cool, but it's not great for your technique, in my opinion, from my own playing, I would say. Let's just ramp it up to 190. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 8th notes. 16th notes coming. So that's really at the edge of my abilities at the moment. So I write down in my diary, I go up to 190 BPM. I need to come back tomorrow and see if I can get to 195. Every BPM that you gain a day is definitely some gains. The great thing is, without even realizing, you're starting to tremolo pick. So next time you're playing a guitar solo, you can now apply this to your scales. We're going to apply exactly the same formula, but to a scale. Let's work with A minor pentatonic, which will look like this. We'll use shape 1. Assuming now that you've got a bit faster after doing the first lot of practicing, let's ramp this up to 140 BPM, just so it's not going to really drag going through the scales. So at first we want to do our quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So next we want to do our 8th notes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally our 16th notes. 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under. So this is where it gets a lot more difficult because you're changing strings, and this is when the slanted pick is really useful. So when you're changing those strings, you're not going to get caught on the previous one. But that's another great exercise you want to do as well. So start super slow and then speed it up. So that's how you learn how to tremolo pick. Once you get good at this and you get it up to speed, you can apply this to all your different scales. We could do it for the major scale. We could apply it to Phrygian dominant. We could apply it to Lydian mode. You can apply it to any scale and have so much fun over backing tracks. So that's it. It's not that difficult once you get dug in. I guarantee after a few days you'll start to see results, maybe even sooner if you practice very hard, but you'll definitely see results in a couple of weeks. And I'm excited to see the comments below of your progress, so please let me know how you get on. And also let me know what kind of lessons you guys are looking for on my channel, and I'll try and do them in the future. If you need more scales to apply this technique to, I do have a book out called The Ultimate Guitar Scales Book. Let me see if you can see it there. It's on Amazon, so you can get it worldwide. I'm very proud of it. It's basically a Bible of every single scale you'd ever need in contemporary music. There's over 30 scales and modes, 80 shapes you can use all over the fretboard. And of course, you can apply the tremolo technique to all of them and have a lot of fun. I upload backing tracks now on my channel every weekend. It's something new and you can apply all of these techniques I'm teaching you to them. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment, leave a like, all that good stuff. And I'll see you for another video very soon. Take care, man.
Oh, I feel it now. I can't make you smile. You make me feel so goddamn uneasy. Don't you break this vow. I can't lose you now. You can't.
Oh, that's a big book he has.
Big book of scales and claws, right? We talk about that. The different claws, different positions, different chord shapes.
Oh, and great advice on how to approach that. I like
Yep.
the quarter note, eighth note, 16th note approach to build up your comfort zone and then practice at higher BPMs until you really can shred.
Yeah, and some people will go with that whole journaling or every day, like write it down, have the goals, and go with it that way. For me, I'm much more freeform with it, where like a lot of times I'll find that if I were to focus on things and like do it every day religiously, that's one thing, and I'll gain a little bit of speed. But also, if I do it for a couple days and then I put it aside for a couple days a week, and then come back to it, all of a sudden I'm way faster than I was before. And it's more because I've been thinking about it, even though I wasn't playing for those last couple of days. It was more sinking in over time. And the muscle
Yeah,
memory was already kind of there of how to do it. And it was more my mind letting me get out of the way kind of thing.
yeah. Letting it like actually ferment in the brain until it's ready.
Yep, exactly. And that's a big one because there's so many things like trying to give people too much music theory all at once. A lot of times, like so much of it goes over, like, you know, when I was learning it, so much of it went over my head, like at the very beginning. But then later on, I'll be just looking at something, looking at a chart or something, and all of a sudden something clicks from, you know, something that I had heard 5 or 10 times way back when, but never really sunk in. But then when I saw it in this context, it was like, oh, that's what they meant. And all of a sudden it made sense. But you try to explain that to somebody else who doesn't have the framework already, and it's, you know, it's the kind of thing where, again, you're kind of priming it. It's like you don't have to remember this later, or you don't have to remember this right now, but just to be exposed to the information will help you to retain it later.
And it helps to have something to apply it to. So
Yeah.
like, you know, if you want to practice your tremolo picking, then do some Eddie Van Halen covers. The ones specifically that he's really emphasizing it, and now you're applying it to something.
Not only that, but I would also suggest with the tremolo picking, scales on one string, because that'll help you focus on, you can, you know, the tremolo picking, you're just on that one string, but you're also focusing on, you know, all the notes in the scale on that one string. And that helps for a number of different reasons, because sometimes you do just want to move way up here, and you can just, if you can comfortably and smoothly get melody lines happening just on one string, then you can work your way up there. And especially if you're tremolo picking, you can get some fancy stuff happening even just
Yeah,
on one string and move your way on up.
I think you're kind of seeing that as a common theme amongst a lot of these different techniques is start on one string, get comfortable with holding the pick, how you're doing it, get the wrist. He made another good point with, like, it's all in the wrist. My arm is not doing anything. You
And not
shouldn't be
tensing up. That
doing
was a
that.
big one. Not don't tense up. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big one.
and also his suggestion on like bringing your fingers in instead of doing that like open finger. Yes, it does look cool, but I can see that being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and for me, the anchoring, like instead of anchoring, like some of them they were talking in the previous video about anchoring with the pinky and the ring finger on the body of the guitar or the body of the bass. And for me, a lot of times I will just anchor with the pinky, and with that pinky anchored, then I can do the back and forth much more cleanly because like it gives you that solid reference point, and it also allows you to use that one finger can also be muting the top string, the skinniest string, or the skinniest two strings, depending on what note you're actually trying to play and what string you're playing on.
Yeah, really good stuff. At
Mhm.
Carl Golden
Yeah.
over on YouTube. Carl Golden Music.
Very cool.
So our next one is cross picking, and this is another one where different genres had different videos about cross picking, but couldn't resist like like I do love me some banjo.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And I don't think he's going to be talking too much about banjo in this one, but like this can apply to those style of instruments as well.
Mm-hmm. About cross picking for guitar.
Oh, his YouTube channel isn't available. Interesting. But he is at Banjo Ben.
Let's give the video a try and see what we got there.
Yeah, let's see what cross picking is.
Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I'm Banjo Ben, your host here on the website that teaches you how to play mandolin, banjo. This week is Guitar Week, and we're doing an introduction to cross picking. This is really good. You know, cross picking has a lot of people think that a lot of things are cross picking, but I'm going to narrow that down a little bit. We're going to talk about forward rolls, reverse rolls using alternate picking, which is definitely one way to do it. And I'm going to give you some great exercises that really strengthens your pick hand so that there's no weak spots in your cross-picking playing, which has to happen before you ever get fast cross-picking. Okay, we've got to get these fundamentals down. Then we're going to take You Are My Sunshine. We're going to play at a time through applying our forward rolls, and then play at a time through applying our reverse rolls, so that we're just all over these strings and accurate and strong and sounding good. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube here in a moment, I'll ask you to come over to the website, BanjoBenClark.com. You can join as a Gold Pick member, as many of you have. You can watch all of my videos, download all the tabs, just like this lesson, and I have 3 different speeds of MP3 rhythm tracks that you can get. So let's jump right into cross picking. Cross picking. You know, cross picking is one of those terms that can have a pretty wide definition. There's lots of different things out there that people think cross-picking is. I'm going to teach you a pretty narrow definition of what cross-picking is. And then after we learn some exercises to get our pick hand really working on it, we're going to work those newfound skills into a song, You Are My Sunshine, which is a lot of fun to do. Now, what am I talking about whenever I talk about cross-picking? Well, me personally, I'm talking about using a flat pick to pick individual notes through multiple strings, okay? And it mimics much like what a banjo might do. So, you know, some of you are banjo players, but if you're not, you know, one of the things that a banjo player also does is what's called a forward roll. And that's just where he moves his fingers forward or down through the strings. So it's just a 3-note roll, right? Well, whenever we're cross pick, we're going to take a flat pick and we're going to copy that, but we're just going to use our flat pick. In the same way, a banjo player might do a reverse roll, where you play up or back through the strings. Well, we can take a flat pick and we can copy that as well. Okay. Now you can cross pick on more than 3 strings. But, you know, usually, I'll say usually, a 3-note pattern is kind of what sticks out and kind of defines the cross-picking sound. Now, we're going to be using alternate picking, okay? You can cross-pick and not use alternate picking, but we are. That just means that for every single note, we're going to change pick direction. So if we start with a down, we'll then go to an up, and then a down, and then an up, and then a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the same way for our reverse rolls. And that takes a little practice if you've never done it before. So that's what we're going to do here. Let's go ahead and throw up the first line of tab. And we're going to look first at what I call this forward roll. And let's just look at what the basics are there in measure 2. Let's start on our D string. And we want to keep our wrist nice and loose. We don't want to do this with our arm and elbow. We want to try to move through these strings using primarily our wrist. But we're going to do a downstroke. You see those little black arrows beneath the notes? That's the pick direction. And so for this D string, we're going to do a downstroke. Then we're going to play the G string with an up. And then we're going to come on through with a downstroke on the B string. That's what measure 2. So measure 2 sounds like this. And that's what I would call a downstroke led cross-picking forward roll. And it just means that we start with our downstroke, so we go down, up, down. And you might just want to pause the video and just get with those 3 strings and just practice to where you can do that slowly but accurately and cleanly. Now the next one we're going to look at is measure 3, an upstroke lead. And because this is a 3-note roll, you're going to be switching back and forth between downstroke and upstroke led rolls. But we're going to do the same 3 strings, but we're going to start with an upstroke this time. We're just breaking it down into components that we can handle. So let's start with our upstroke on the D string, then a downstroke on the G, then an upstroke on the B. Can you do all 3 of those without messing up? Let's start with an up, down, up, down, up. Up, down, up, down, up. Now what you might want to pause the video and get a little bit more proficient at that. Try not to look at your pick hand, just feel it. Okay? And then you might want to also switch around to the other strings. You might start down here and practice a downstroke led roll. Or you might start on your A string and practice an upstroke led roll. But once we have that down pat where we at least understand that we're going to be switching pick strokes, you need to be careful because your brain's going to tell you to try to do 2 downstrokes or 2 upstrokes in a row. I'm just telling you right now, it is. And yes, you can do that, but we're going to learn, and it's going to be very valuable later on, we're going to learn how to do it with alternate picking. So just really pay attention to these pick stroke arrows that are beneath each one of the notes, okay? It'll be for your own good, even if it's a brain bender. And here comes the brain bender. In measures 4 and 5, we're going to do a continuous stream of these forward rolls, okay? And we're going to concentrate just on this 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, okay? And of course, you can take these exercises and move them wherever you want. In fact, I want you to do that. But we're going to start with a downstroke, just like measure 2. Downstroke coming up through the B string. And then here's the trick. We're going to come directly back to the D string with an upstroke and do the upstroke led forward roll. Then come back for a down, then an up, and then a down. Okay, so if you look at measures 4 and 5, we have 5 different complete forward rolls. You see that? Ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da. And so every other one starts with a different pick stroke. The first one will start with that down, then an up, then a down, then an up, then a down. Now, if you've never done that before, that is tricky. And so you just want to slow down as slow as you possibly have to go to make sure and get those. You can look at your pick hand. Eventually, we're going to get away from that. But here's what I want you to do on this exercise number 1. After you get the concept down, I want you to concentrate on accenting the D string. And we're going to systematically teach our pick hand how to do really strong forward cross-picking rolls. So I want you to play it through again very slowly, but we're going to make our D string louder than the others. It would sound like this. So we are telling our brain, and our brain is telling our hand to accent every time you play that D note. Okay, try to make it smooth, and don't worry about going fast right now. That will come, and it takes a while for this speed to develop. Now let's look at exercise number 2, because now is when we're going to start making our hand do some different things to really drill this into our mind.
That one looks a little tricky.
Yeah, well, that's important. I mean, getting accustomed to going back and forth and being able to have it sound smooth, whether it's guitar or even with drumming, I find the same thing. Like, being able to play a pattern, and then being able to play it back the other way, starting with the other hand. It's important to be able to go back and forth and have it sound the same either way, so that you can fill in with either hand for whatever you're trying to do.
Well, and that whole upstroke, downstroke, upstroke technique, man, that's got to take some practice to really get smooth.
Oh yeah, you just start slow and doodle doodle like he was doing there. And again, like I saw him, cheating at one point, quote unquote cheating, where he was playing the first note with the pick and then doing 2 fingers, grabbing. So hybrid picking, where first note down.
Isn't it funny? Like, these are all leading up to you see certain ones where certain styles have started to cross. Like, we've seen alternate in that one.
Yep.
We've seen some of the techniques bleed through to the other techniques.
Absolutely. And you can see that there's a whole bunch of different ways to do things, but each one lends itself to different situations and also lends itself to a unique sound. So it's important to understand how to make each of these and to incorporate them into your style, because then you can always fall back or switch to a sound that if you want to get that sound, that's how you do it. You pick this way, or you grab or you put the pick away and you use the fingers or whatever. Like, you can find how to get the sound that you're looking for with some of these techniques.
Yeah, I'm liking this new channel. I mean, if his focus is on like mandolin, banjo, and acoustic guitar like that, some good stuff in there.
Yep.
That's
and a lot of the
BanjoBenClark.com.
Yep. Banjo Ben Clark. And a lot of the that sound, also the country sound, has a lot to do with the bass bounce, like starting from that the root note and then going to the 5 underneath, doom 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 doom, like getting that kind of a bounce going and having that going. A lot of times it'll be with the thumb, with the thumb pick, or if you're doing finger picking, you'll have the thumb bouncing back and forth with that while the other fingers are doing accenting the upper parts of the chord and doing hammer-ons and things like that to get little melodic ideas happening.
Yeah, and it can really get fast on the high end.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you said, it takes getting used to, and getting familiar with, getting all these tricks under your belt, just kind of experimenting, trying things out, figuring out, like, you ever hear somebody going like doodle 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 doodle, and you're like, hey, how did they do that? And then you kind of think about it and you kind of play it slow and you go, oh, like this, and then you kind of, once you figure out how to make it work, then you just work on speeding it up and getting it smooth.
Yeah, it is nice to see this stuff in slow motion. I'm not a guitarist, but I actually do understand and pick it up watching it that way.
Yep, absolutely. And it also applies to, like you said, the other stringed instruments as well. It could be violin, it could be a lot of things. I mean, there'll be differences in nuance and the way that you play it, but when it comes to the structure of the the fretboard and how you're actually making the sounds, it's all very similar.
Yep. So Our next picking technique, because we don't forget our metalheads, and this one really does seem to be associated with metal big time. Like when I was searching for this one, every video was pushing me towards like, this is metal. This is what metal uses. And
This is what you're looking for.
they really want to give Kirk Hammett like, credit, and James Hetfield. They really want to give them the credit for making this technique popular. But it goes back to Jimmy Page, and actually, I did watch a video where like the guy that he mentions was the original down picker is an Indian musician that most people wouldn't even know. But but Metallica definitely made this technique very popular after they started using it.
Nice. All about the down picking.
Yeah, this is about down picking, and it's another freshie at Stine Music Lessons on YouTube.
Nice. That's a new one for me as well.
Yep, another freshie.
Right.
And look, Steve, we're subscribed.
Ding, 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 ding. All about down picking.
Yeah, Monday guitar motivation.
Right.
Works perfectly with Metal Monday.
Exactly. On a Thursday. Boom.
I had a little extra time today, so thought I'd go live and we would chat a little bit. So if you could let me know if you're watching either on YouTube or Facebook or something like that. And if you are on Facebook and you do want to comment, jump over to either the Steve Stine page or the Steve Stine guitar page, and you can actually comment from there. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to try and help you out. Again, I don't want to take a bunch of your time, but I'm going to help you out a little bit with trying to develop your down picking a little bit. Again, I had that question on Monday, and I talk about these things quite often. Hey, Got, so hopefully I can help you a little bit with this. So the first thing is understanding that the gear that you're using, hey, Jack, hey, Shivam, hey, Michael, make sure that you have the right tools for the job. And what I mean by that is make sure that your guitar is set up properly, and make sure you've got the appropriate guitar pick. Now, I can't tell you what's perfect to use. Hey, Michael. Hey, Serge. Hey, Tanjid. Hey, Robert. Jake. Hey, Lance. Thank you so much for joining me. So what I use, I can tell you what I use, but it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that you figure out what works best for you. Hey, Michael. Hey, Ajay. Hey, Brandon. I usually use somewhere around 9 gauge strings. Sometimes it's 8.5, sometimes it's 9.5. I use GHS because they have custom half sizes, which I really like depending on, what time of the year it is and that sort of thing. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Norman. Hey, Archie. So, but the most important thing is I've got a wonderful local guitar store here that's able to set up my guitars so the strings are really close to the neck, which is how I like to play. Doesn't mean it's the same for everybody. But it feels good to me. And then the second thing is making sure that the pick that you're using is appropriate. Hey, Bruno. Hey, Cyrus. Hey, Awad. Hey, Seasons. Because I use a 2.0 pick. I use Hawk guitar picks. Ironically, I have the shirt on right now, which wasn't planned. But I use a thicker pick is what I like to use with a sharper point because it makes it easier for me. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It's different for everybody. Hey, John. Hey, Leisha. So what we do is once we get ourselves set up with a decent setup, right? I've got my strings set up, my neck, it feels good, and I'm ready to play. Hey, Bruce. Hey, Tony. Okay, cool. Looks like we have quite a few people here. This is great. So what I try and do then is dial in a tone that feels good. Again, you don't have to go out and buy new gear or anything like that. Just finding a sound that... Hey, Lisa. Now, I just decided to go live on a Thursday and just talk about this down picking thing to get it out of my brain. So here's what I want you to do. I've got an exercise that you've probably seen on YouTube before, and I refer to it as a 3-minute exercise. And I think it's a really great place to start. Once you've, dialed in your guitar, you've got a tone set up, you're ready to go. Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, Jack. What we do is we start thinking about how we're going to play down picking to develop speed, stamina, and dexterity, right? That's what we're looking for. And really strength as well. Speed, strength, and stamina are the 3 S's. And part of it is once you've got your gear set up, you want to make sure that you start learning how to relax from really the neck down when you pick. You know, you watch people pick, and sometimes they pick, they're just gripping like this. And the key is really try and relax all your muscles. Especially when you play a lot of metal and things like that, it's really important, metal, I should say, it's really important to relax a little bit. This is an Ibanez gem, Bradley. You got to relax a little bit so you can last longer when you're picking. So what I like to do is what's called a 3-minute exercise. And what you do is you take a metronome, and I'm literally going over to Google and just typing in the word metronome, and it gives me a metronome. So what I'm going to do here is dial that up for you. Okay, and I've got this set at 150 right now. That's where I've got this set. I'm going to move that metronome to this desktop over here, this monitor. And here we go. Okay, so that's set at 150. And what I'm going to do, and 150 is just a place to begin. You could be at 90, you could be at 80. It doesn't matter. The point is you get on the board. Okay, drop the ego, drop the I've been playing for 20 years, so I should be able to do whatever. Yes, exactly. So the most important thing is that you find a tempo that works for you, and you're going to try and play this down picking exercise for 3 minutes. Okay, now what should happen if you're at the right tempo is, you know, a good 60 seconds into it, 90 seconds into it, you're going to start feeling tension, but you're able to actually play this for 3 straight minutes without stopping. Now, the second thing is once we've dialed in the appropriate tempo, the most important thing is you be honest with yourself. Like I said, drop the ego on how fast you think you're supposed to be and really start figuring out how fast you are, and that way you can start building from there. So honesty is the next most important thing. You got to make sure that you're playing at a speed that works. Laisha says Johnny Ramone was supernatural, and he really was. You'd see him live, and he would take those songs and play them 20, 30 beats faster, which was amazing. So what you do is you dial in, and you start reminding yourself to relax all your muscles. So let me just show you. I'm going to start at 150 here, and I start doing this. And notice how I'm doing 2 per click. And as I do this, I'm just trying to train myself to relax. I don't need to make too many large movements with the guitar pick. The goal is just to stay really small. And always understand that your picking action is either going to come from your bicep, right, and your elbow. It's going to come from your wrist, or it's going to come from your fingers. And everybody's different that way, and it depends on the speed that you're going. That makes a difference as well, okay? So let me come back over here just for a second here. I just want to say a quick hi. Jeff, Troy, Kyle, Sazan, thank you so much. Let's hear some Metallica. See, we're going to get to that in just a second. So we're using this 3-minute exercise to dial this in, and as we start playing it, if we are incapable of doing it for 3 minutes, right? We get too tense, or it's just telling us, hey, we're not ready for this. We got to slow down a little bit, or we have to relax a little bit, or whatever it might be, okay? So we start doing this again. I'm going to try this again. 2 per click. And when I start playing, all I want to focus on is lining up to that metronome and relaxing. Hey, Jim. Hey, Brandon. And as I'm doing this, as I get more comfortable, then I start thinking about my attack, right? The amount of pick that I'm using, the aggression that I'm using on that string as I hit that string, right? And then trying to maintain that volume each time I pick, trying to have a very similar attack each time. Hey, JJ. So as I play, Jason from Newcastle, Australia, it's nice. Thank you so much for being here. So as we dial that in, what happens is, again, around minute and a half, somewhere around there, you're really going to start feeling it. And as you start feeling it, you've got to remind yourself to just relax. Relax your muscles, relax your tendons, relax your pick grip, right? All these things, you need to keep trying to relax. And that's how you start developing this strength and stamina, which develops ultimately into your speed, right? You want to keep trying to develop that. So, but again, the most important thing is when you're doing this, and I know I sound like a broken record, but don't try and do a speed that's incapable, or you have to fake your way when you do it, because it's just not going to benefit you. Find a speed that works. You know, I was a Montessori instructor for many years, if you know what Montessori education is. And our philosophy with the kids would always be, you need to find a way that works, right? If what you're doing isn't working, you need to find something else. But in order to do that, we have to focus. We have to think about it. So that's what I want you to do. Now, the second thing, in addition to this, because again, I'm not going to take all of your time here, but the next thing is trying to dial in using some songs that you like. Now, I've got a couple of playlists on Spotify. If you are on Spotify at all, if you type in Steve Stine downpicking or Steve Stine alternate picking, you're going to find the playlists. And the one we're talking about is the downpicking. And what I like to do is I like to use songs from my downpicking. Now, I can't use the songs right now because with YouTube and everything going on, who knows what's going to happen. But basically what I try and do is find songs. Now, you might just pick a song. Let's say I was doing a little bit of Painkiller by Judas Priest, right? So it's going... Maybe you don't want to learn the whole song, but you're going to use just the intro to that. Or maybe you're using Creeping Death by Metallica. Or you know, whatever part of the song it might be. Let me see what else I've got in there for downpicking. You know, it could be Number of the Beast, right? You know, something like, yeah, you're right. My wife went out to get the the mail. So, right, or Master of Puppets. I mean, it could be any of those kind of things. I remember sitting practicing. When I used to play that section of Master of Puppets, I used to alternate pick when I was a kid because I couldn't do it fast enough. And then you keep developing it. And you keep working on that. Now, here's something I want to remind you real quick before I end this, is that the difference between like the 3-minute picking and using songs is that when you're doing the 3-minute picking, you're not giving yourself a rest. Okay? You're literally going for 3 minutes, whatever speed you're choosing. If you think about it, when you play songs, the beauty of most song construction, and again, there are a million songs out there that do different things, but you get a rest. So if I go, if I'm playing, even if it was faster, if I was playing Creeping Death, when I pause, I get those small, brief moments of pause. It actually helps my wrist because it can reinvigorate my energy, and it gives me a break on that repetitive stress that can happen by doing these sorts of things. So you want to know that when you're playing songs, you know, whatever song you might be practicing, I'm just looking over here to see. Like, one I used to use all the time was Antisocial by Anthrax, which, you know. You'll notice when I get to the, I do an alternate pick, and again, it just feels more natural to me, but in my doing that, it actually relieves my wrist a little bit so I can re-energize a little bit and kick it back in. You see what I mean? So there's always some things like that within the context of songs that you can use when you're playing. So these are just a few ideas that you can use to try and develop your down picking a little bit. And please remember, somewhere around, I'm in Central Time, so somewhere around 9 is usually when I go live. On Monday, I'll be going live again, and we'll talk a little bit more about some various techniques and things like that too. So thank you so much. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Spark, Josh, Chris. Thank you, everybody. And join me on Monday. And again, remember, if you're looking for any kind of materials and things like that for learning, you can always head over to guitarzoom.com and see my guitar courses, and we have subscription sites and all kinds of different stuff like that. Carl says Fight Fire with Fire, which is a perfect one. Now, that gets more into alternate picking, right? When we start getting into, and I don't remember... I haven't played that in a long time, but... there we go. That's an alternate picking one, and I have a playlist of alternate picking that works for that as well. So that's some good stuff. So thank you, Cole. Thank you, King 40, Chris, everybody. Stay positive, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all live on Monday, okay? Take care.
Oh, excellent examples there.
He even threw in a little bit of alternate picking at the end.
Yep.
I thought at one
Not all
point,
about down picking.
I thought at one point he was going to start using what he was playing to say hi to people. Like he should have sang it like Metallica style.
Exactly.
And you can tell like that audience was like ready for Metallica when you're talking this picking style.
Yeah. Man, I mean, great job on like little pieces of all those songs, just busting them all out, one after the other, just like that.
Well, and he really emphasizes the potential fatigue with this particular style. That's something I saw in the videos I was searching for, where several of the videos talk about like endurance and carpal tunnel and other potential problems when you're playing this way that you want to avoid.
Yeah, cautionary tales for sure.
Well, just watching it in action, you can see there's more work going on with the constant pushing down and like he mentioned, like the good thing about most songs is there's rest moments. It's not like most songs you're not doing that for 3-4 minutes straight.
Depends on the style though, like you were saying, kind of like with drummers don't necessarily, they're not always on the kick drum, but certain styles of music, and they're doing that for 3-4 minutes straight. So like,
yeah,
it depends on the style as to whether, whether it's fatiguing or not.
Yeah, some of those drummers are not human.
Yes, for sure.
So that's he's at guitarzoom.com and on YouTube at Stine Music Lessons. The man's got a following, 706,000 subscribers. He's doing something right.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff.
Yeah, another freshie.
All right.
And, again, he mentions, different techniques and how they interact, which leads us to our next one, which, this is all about mixing up the different techniques.
Hybrid picking. Yep.
Into into a whole nother technique.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, and this one comes. Yeah. This one comes from at Guitar Versum Sandra Sherman, and mostly chord melody jazz standards tutorial. She's a jazz girl. Nice. Gotta love it. Yeah. And you know me, I do want to learn jazz, so bring it on, Sandra.
Hybrid picking guitar tutorial.
Hi, jazz guitar aficionados. Sandra Sherman here. Greetings from Austria. Today's lesson is all about hybrid picking on guitar. I'm going to be showing you tips and exercises to master this technique. Professional guitarists of all genres use hybrid picking because it's the most flexible right-hand technique. So this lesson is not limited to jazz. So loosen up your right-hand fingers and let's get started. Okay, first off, what is hybrid picking? Hybrid picking is when I play with my pick and my fingers simultaneously, all right? Like this. And you can do that in all styles. We need a fat pick for, well, not for this, but it's better to use a not flexible pick. So in jazz, I use 2 or 3 millimeter picks. If I play rock, maybe I go down to 1.5. But the thing is, it shouldn't bend, otherwise you have no control over it. All right, now how to hold your pick correctly. Place it, make something like an X or a cross, and place your pick in there. 90 degrees angle off your thumbnail, and it shouldn't stick out too far. like 1/3 of an inch or 0.7 centimeters. Okay, something like this. Here you go, that's a better angle. Now let me show you how to practice hybrid picking. You first use your pick and your middle finger only and choose not 2 adjacent strings, but 1 string apart minimum. So let's say your thumb, pick and thumb, play the low E string, then put your middle finger into the D string and practice to get an equal tone. What we strive for is consistency in volume, right? So both tones sound the same volume. The finger tone may be a little louder because it has the melody of the comping on the voice leading. So the chords have a kind of a melody too. I'm not talking about the melody of the song, but the melody of the voice leading. And that means the highest note is that melody and needs to be a tad louder. Okay, so just the 2 of these. Take another pair, A string and G string, and make them sound simultaneously, not like in the beginning it sounds like this. But what you strive for is next pair and last pair, and that should sound really a little louder. Should be definitely be very audible. Okay, next thing, practice with your ring finger and your pick. So you take the E string and the G string, for example. Again, the must be clearly audible. Next string pair. And a last one. Now play the middle and ring fingers simultaneously on the D and G strings plus the bass on the E string. Take any chord, you don't see that now, but I'm fretting a C major chord. And da should be the loudest. All right, now let's add the pinky. That's the hardest one, and it has to be the loudest usually. Usually it's the loudest because it has the highest tone. All right, let's check this C major chord again and play E string, D, ring is on the G, and the pinky is on the B string. Right? All together simultaneously. If it doesn't sound good, practice just these 2 alone first. Has to sound. Also, try to memorize the sound of each string. Sometimes is not being heard because people tend to not play that. That's not good. We want to hear all 3 plus the bass. Da needs to be heard too. Finally, you can practice a little picking, so one after another. Because this is used too sometimes. And also for ballads, practice this, but this is a little hard to do in the beginning. Quickly one after each other, one after another, arpeggiated. If you come from a finger-picking background, you might want to start with your fingers only, omitting the index, because the index is the one that holds the pick along with the thumb. So practice as you always did, but using these 3 fingers for the upper 3 strings and not playing your index, okay? So you might want to play something like this. Let's get you a better angle. just 2 strings. Changing over to 3 strings. And all 4. Change between string sets, just like the previous lesson, but start with fingers if you come from a finger picking background, and then change over to the exercises with the pick. Another thing you might want to practice when practicing hybrid picking is the use of melody tones in between chords. And usually I do it, those melody tones, I do them with my pick because it's more precise and louder. But you could use your fingers too. So let's give you an example. I go to G major, that's 3, 4, 4, 3, but that's actually not the point here. And now I want to have a melody note added on the 5th of the B, and I played with my pick. You could also use your middle finger, but it's not as loud and not as precise. So pick downstroke or upstroke, depending on the situation really, if it's fast or slow, where the next chord is. So you might want to practice each of these. Finger, I use the middle finger usually. Pick down or pick up. Then go to the next chord, let's say a G major 7 inversion, 7, 5, 7, 7. Oops. Next melody tone, 10th of the B, and I go down again. D13, 10, 10, 11, 12, and another chord at the end, G major 7. You might also want to practice going through each of the strings fast. I take the A string and the upper 3 strings. All right? I use that for ballads a lot. Get used to the hybrid picking technique by only using it for the next couple of weeks only. So, if you're a finger picker and you need to finger pick in between, that's totally fine. But don't practice just for 5 minutes a day hybrid picking and think that's enough. It's not enough. You have to immerse into that technique. And that can only be done by using it all the freaking time for the next couple weeks. And then it kind of becomes second nature to you. All right, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I see you next week. Servus from Vienna.
I freaking like it.
what I like about both of those, both with the pick, the pick style as well as just the thumb style, was that all of them have them coming together, like you're pulling towards. It's a pinch maneuver essentially.
Yeah.
Like the fingers in the bottom are coming towards and the thumb is going down. So in total, it feels very comfortable once you get used to doing it that way. And going back and forth, because a lot of times you'll want to bounce that, where you want that root note or the low note boom by itself, and then those top 3 together. So boom, chop, and going back and forth between those, and you can get a nice little bounce rhythmically with stuff like that. But great stuff there, yeah. And love
yeah.
this.
Uni made a great point. This is where how you hold your pick really does matter.
Yeah.
You got to get it comfortable. It's good to have some finger picking experience. She mentions you, in order to get comfortable with this, it's okay if you're also practicing finger picking at the same time, because it does help with this technique. But immersing yourself into it for a while, applying it long enough for it to settle in, this kind of technique takes a little practice.
Yeah, for sure. But it's good to be aware of them all. And by going through a bunch of them right now is people are seeing a bunch of different techniques. Not everybody's aware of all of the techniques. People have probably used one or more of the techniques we're talking about, or have seen people using them before. by kind of seeing them all next to each other, you get a more of an idea overall, being able to see what all differences are and how they sound different and how they compare to each other.
Yeah, hopefully it'll encourage all of you guitar players out there to try some of these techniques if you haven't done them yet.
Branch out from your style. Yeah,
they will lend to your style.
Exactly. Good stuff.
So that's at Guitar Versum, Sandra Sherman on YouTube. Awesome new freshie.
Yes, indeed. From Austria.
Gonna be visit, and you know I do like the jazz sound. Her guitar, so pretty sounding.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
next we have some sweep picking coming up.
And this is the one that I actually hear like the most coming out of guitarists' mouths these days. Like this is a very popular picking style that, again, a lot of the guys who like to shred seem to be mentioning it.
Indeed.
Go figure. Stevie is the one that I found. Like, this is why he gets in here twice tonight.
We'll see what he has to say about sweep picking for today.
Stevie T.
What's going on? I'm Stevie T, and some of you may recall that I already did a how to sweep pick video in the past. However, I did that video back in like 1953. This was fun. Oh, this is fun. That was some primitive stuff, man. So I think it's time to bring the sweep picking tutorial to the current century. This time, I'm not only going to teach you guys how to sweep pick, but I'm going to teach you guys in form of a song. 2 birds, 1 stone. Bam! So here is the song that you guys are going to learn. That's right, if you guys stick to it, you guys will be playing that song. Women will be coming up to you like, ooh, kiss me. And if you guys follow my link in the description, you can get a 7-day free trial with Musician and search for Stevie T or Arpeggio Workout, because that's what our little sweep pick tunage is called. And you can play along with my tab. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen Musician's ads before YouTube videos, but they are gonna help enormously for learning this song, so let's get to it. Well, here I am. Bet you guys would never see me from this angle, huh? Alright, I'm gonna try this angle because this is the angle that you can see on your guitar. This is looking through your eyes. Now, sweep picking is totally different than your regular picking. Instead, what we want to do is glide our pick fluently up or down the strings. So instead of this, we want this. Your pick is just gonna fluently fall into the next string. So to kind of get used to that, just mute your strings and practice that. Alright. Alright, so the first pattern of our little sweepy sweepy song starts off with our pinky on the 14th fret of the E, and we're gonna upstroke that. And then we're gonna pull off onto the 10th fret of the E, like a doorbell. Ding dong! Would someone answer the damn door? So the next note is with our second finger, the FU finger, on the 12th fret of the B. We're gonna upstroke that. And next note is the 11th fret on the G string. And this is the top note of our sweep, so we're gonna downstroke that one, and then just go back the way we came. But now we're gonna downstroke, downstroke, and repeat. So the picking pattern goes like this. Up, pull off, up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, down, down, down. It's like a dance. Up, pull off, up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, down, 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 or something, I don't know. And pattern number 2 uses the exact same fingers, but this time we're doing frets 12 on the E, upstroke, pull off on the 9th fret of the E with your first finger, upstroke the 10th note of the B string with your second finger, and then at the same time moving your first finger onto the 9th fret of the G, and back down. Still using that up, pull off, up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, down, down, down. So why don't we play along with the tab on musician at 25% speed, so nice and slow. We'll try these two patterns together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Perfect! Now some of you may find that a little too fast at this point, but don't you worry. All you gotta do is bust out a metronome and play it at, say, 50 beats per minute and see if that works for you to help build up your speed. And that goes for every pattern that we learned today. You can always pause the video, set up a metronome, and learn it at your own speed. In fact, I would recommend that. And another very important thing to keep in mind when sweep picking is muting the other strings that you're not playing, because they're gonna make string noise unless we keep this area of our palm, the area that we would use for palm muting. We want that to be resting on all the strings that we're not sweep picking on. And sometimes I will even use this part of my thumb very close to the pick to mute a note after I've played it. Because sweep picking is all about the cleanliness of each note. Because cleanliness is godliness. Okay, sorry. But for the most part, just focus on learning these patterns slowly, and you will naturally learn to mute the strings in your own ways. Now we move on to the next position. What was that? Now we move on to the next position. Okay, pattern number 3 is going to be using the same fingers again, but instead of the pinky, we're going to use the third finger this time. So the first note is 15th on the E, pull off on the 12th with our first finger, 14th on the B with our second finger, then 15th on the G with our third finger, and then back down. Up, pull off, up, down, 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 up, pull off, down, down, down. If you've ever heard Yngwie Malmsteen play guitar, you have heard this sweeping position. Does it sound familiar? And pattern number 4 is the exact same pattern as pattern number 1. So you can see this is not as complicated as you originally thought. Remember that one? Let's try it to a metronome. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So pattern number 5 is where things get a little bit tricky. We're going to be using all 4 fingers, and there's going to be a bit of a stretch. So we have pinky on fret 12 on the E, and we're going to pull off onto the 7th fret of the E. So that'll be a bit tricky at first. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. And then with our second finger, we're going to do the 8th note on the B, 3rd finger, 9th fret on the G, and back down. Okay, pattern number 6, we're only using 2 fingers, 4th and 1st finger. Rock on. So 10th fret on the E, pull off on the 7th with your 1st finger, and then you're gonna pick the 7th fret of the B, and you're gonna kind of roll your finger onto that one, while lifting off slightly from the previous note to mute it. And then roll your finger onto the 7th fret of the G. And then roll all the way back down. It's like you're doing the worm with your finger. I know it looks intimidating, but with experimentation and practice, you will get it. So let's play patterns 5 and 6 together now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, pattern 7, we're almost done. So pattern 7 is the exact same as pattern number 2. You remember this one? Only this time it's going to be played on the 9th fret, pulling off to the 6th on the E, 2nd finger, 7th on the B, and then 6 on the G, and sweeping back down. And you thought sweep picking was tricky. And the final pattern is the trickiest pattern yet, because we got a long stretch, and we're going to be using the finger rolling technique again, using the 2nd finger this time. Sorry. So we got 14 on the E, pull off on the 9th of the E, and then with our second finger, we're gonna play 11 on the B, and the next note is the 11th on the G. So we're gonna use the rolling technique again, but this time using our second finger. And then back down. And then you can end with a nice upstroke on the 12th fret of the B. So let's put patterns 7 and 8 together, see how they sound. And then that will be a jam. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean, man? So what do you say we run through this whole thing at 25% speed? We'll piece all the patterns together now. Okay, so now I'm gonna play along with my tab on musician at full speed. We'll see how good I can do. Not too shabby. Now once you guys are comfortable with this song, I may have to do a part 2 teaching some more advanced sweep picking techniques. But that one is for a different day. First thing is first. And remember, follow my link in the description to start a free trial with Musician, and then you can play along with my sweep picking tab. And you can speed it up and slow it down as you see fit. I really hope you'll work at it and be able to play it. It will make me so happy to see some of you playing this. So thanks to Musician, and thanks to you for watching. Have fun sweeping, you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Sweepy McSweepersons.
Ah, yes.
That's why I like Stevie T. He's fun. I love his spirit.
Yep.
Great
Definitely,
guitarist.
Goofy in a good way.
Oh, in the best way. I mean, his videos are both informative and entertaining. Like, he has a great comedic insight.
Definitely.
And he invoked one of the kings of sweep picking, Yngwie.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why I hear the term sweep picking so much. Like, most of the guitarists who mention that are trying to do that Yngwie style approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely distinct when you hear it happening. It's one of those things.
And it seems like of all the techniques we've looked at, this one seems like it would be the most natural. It's basically down and up, just depending on the direction you're going.
It's about knowing where you're going is the trick. Like these are, knowing the arpeggio shapes and knowing that you want to go that far and then come back and, this many down and this many back up. And with some of those phrases with Yngwie, I think some of those, like I was talking about before, are 6-note phrases, let's say, or 4-note phrases or 2-note phrases, so that each time, you're going down and then coming back up so that you're back out of the strings like you were talking about. Now you're floating back out, so you're released. So if it's always 6 notes, for example, doodle doodle, you can always do a doodle doodle, and you're free after that to go to another string. So you can do little phrases like that and just work your way up.
And he did mention the importance of like muting in some cases so that you don't have strings doing things that you don't want them to do.
Yep, and that's what James is just saying right there. Yep.
So James knows. He's one of the ones who keeps mentioning sweep picking.
Now I think we have one more topic to hit before the end of the night because we're
Yeah, and
just about getting towards it.
this one's interesting because it's kind of like how to implement like all these different picking techniques in the most efficient way.
Mhm.
Not really cheating, but like just kind of not overworking the technique.
Yeah, not wasting time, not wasting distance. That's one of those things with the fretting hands as well. Some people they move their hands like when they're just starting out, like they'll fret a note, and then when they let go, like the hand completely lets go of the neck, and it's like no, you want to stay just off the string. Like when you're going to let go of the string, you let go of the string, but you're right there, so that when you have to fret again, you're right there. You don't have to go far.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you
if
don't
you
have
let go
to.
and you're way out here, you have all that time of coming all the way back in that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's harder to lock back in when you're disconnected than to just be there.
Now, the one thing would be if you're trying to just hammer on from nowhere, like it helps to be out to get that momentum coming in. But that's like if I'm reaching for a beer or whatever with my with my picking hand, I can just with my fretting hand go bam 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 and hit notes just by like really fretting really hard.
And
But
that's where having a pause in a song, depending on what you're playing, it's nice to be able to have that moment where you can reach for a beer.
yep. And some of the songs we do are it's a song where for many measures it's nothing but E's, A's, and D's. So I can just use three of my open strings on the bass. So I can just basically again with a 5-string bass, one finger on each string, and I can just sit there and play those three middle strings with the three, my index, middle, and ring fingers, and just go back and forth between those three while I'm drinking with the other hand. And the
Open
guitar player
open
looks over
noting
and
it.
starts shaking his head. Yep. He always looks over and starts shaking his head.
I'm multitasking.
Yep, the thicker picks, like he's saying, you use thicker picks than thin because the thin ones bend. And that's what she was talking about before. She was using 2 mil and 3 mil. Now I have as thick as 2 mil. And normally I'm using like the 1.5s, I think.
Well, that felt one looked like it's 3 mil.
Oh, that's yeah. I mean that's super fat, but that's different. I mean that's like that's not the same as a hard plastic 3 mil because the 3 mil hard plastic one that's like what my buddy Ryan was using. It's like it looks like a ceramic floor tile, like the corner of a ceramic floor tile. But it's also depending if you're using the smaller jazz style picks or if you're using the full size. I was using the 1.5s with the max grip, but the two that I had was one of the Gators. That's a smoother one. And yeah, the felt one has got to be that's at least 4 or 5. I mean, it's really thick compared to most other picks.
Yeah, that's a hearty meal.
It's a fat one. But yeah, with that one, it's Joe was asking before I missed his message at the beginning, but it was where I would use that felt pick was on the bass, and I was using it to get kind of a muffled sound, so like I can get it to I would play further back on the strings towards the very end of the strings and play it on the bass, and I'll get a very unique sound with that felt pick compared to other picks or using the fingers.
Oh, that must work good with the big muff.
It would absolutely. 2 mil is good, yeah. 2 mil is what this Gator is, but the one thing I don't like about the Gator one is that it's smooth. It's not doesn't have the texture. One of these guys got a Gator on it, but that's 2 mil, and then the
And that's thick in itself. I mean,
it's pretty thick.
her 3 mil, I was like, damn.
This is the 1.5, which has the texture on it, but doesn't look that fat, especially when compared with that felt pick because that felt one, like you said, that's a sandwich. Yeah, that's a double stuff Oreo right there. But it's not very flexible, even though it's made of felt, and it is somewhat flexible. It's not very flexible, so it acts as a pretty thick pick. But it's very thick. But it's not like playing with one of the the ceramic tile style.
Well, it's got to be more useful with bass where you have some distance.
It is for sure. I couldn't find my my banjo picks, the thumb pick that we were talking about before. I have them around. I think they both ended up in one of my cases, probably in my acoustic case back there. But
You're gonna have to grow out your thumbnails.
No, no, thanks. I got to keep the nails shorter. When they get longer, I mean, I just can't imagine how they don't like break and using them like that because I could just imagine trying to use them like that and end up breaking them and then what. So it's better just to be not dependent on that, and that's one of the reasons I really like playing just using the backs of my fingernails, as just because it makes no difference whether my nails are short or long, because I'm just basically striking the back of my hand along the strings, and I can do it at an angle where they're all ringing out individually, or I can do all across, all at once so that I'm really getting them all to ring out individually. But, you know, you can get very expressive that way, and also just, you know, switch back and forth between going down with the fingers like that and then switching to the meat of the fingers to do that pinch routine like she was doing with the hybrid picking, where you're going like down with the thumb and up with the other three and just making little chord either bounces back and forth with the low note and then the top of the chord, or doing it all at once as a pinch. Good stuff. But now we got one from...
I wouldn't want to have the excuse like, oh, I can't jam today. I'm waiting for my nails to grow.
Right, exactly. I mean, I can see, you know, if you have the nails to go ahead and use them and make use of them, sure, why not?
Or if you could just grow them real fast, just think about it, and your nail pops out like Wolverine.
But I did like the thumb pick. But for me, the one thing was I have pretty big hands, and you know, putting those thumb picks on, it was a little bit tight on the sides. So it's like, it was fine to use and I could use it for a bit, but it wasn't comfortable in terms of it was, you know, squeezing in the wrong places on the thumb, where if it was the right size, then it would be, you know, wrapped around more comfortably and it would be all perfectly fine right there. But I got used to the style of doing it, like being able to do that bounce, you know, that bass bounce, you know, doom, 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 where you're doing that bounce back and forth, just doing that between the A string and the E string on the bass or the
oh, it's gotta help with the bounce.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it just makes it so that, you know, that thumb can handle that whole bottom part. And then, you know, again, that pinch, or you're pulling in with those other three fingers, you can get the triads of whatever chords you want to do. Even jazz chords, you can do extended things because you got that low part going back and forth between the root and the 5 below it, just by going to the next string down. So you can go back and forth between the 1 and the 5, and then up on the top fingers, you're doing the 3, the 7, and, you know, whatever else you want to do for an extended chord. So you can get all kinds of crazy. But let's see what Jake has to say about economy picking.
Yeah, our last one is coming from Signals Music Studio. Anybody who's been watching us knows this channel because it's one of our favorites.
Oh, yeah.
He really does. He really covers like everything, because no matter what we're talking about, he's got something. And he's at Signals Music Studio on YouTube. And he's going to explain what is economy picking. Speed picking, no less.
Speed picking explained.
Somebody on Reddit the other day asked, what is economy picking? And I thought, well, that's a pretty good question, and it's also a good topic to make a video out of. So here we are. Economy picking is an alternative to alternate picking. Alternate picking just means you're doing down, up, down, up, down, up, no matter what. Another definition of alternate picking is you're doing your downs on your downbeats and your ups on your upbeats. But regardless, it's this consistent pattern of down and up. Whereas economy picking, you're going to be sometimes doing 2 downs in a row when you're switching strings, or you might be doing 2 ups in a row when you're switching strings. You can't do this all the time. This is only going to work out in specific situations on the guitar. But if you set up situations to be economy picked, you can access a lot more speed. At least I can personally. There's sort of a debate between economy picking and alternate picking. I personally think you should learn both. Neither of them is going to hurt you, and you certainly don't want to rely on one or the other, but I see a lot of advantages to learning economy picking, especially when you're dealing with things 3 notes per string, and even smaller little licks, 2-string licks and stuff like that. So let's get right into it. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my major scale, and there's a million ways to play it because the major scale in A, we'll just use A, the notes of A major are all over my fretboard. So I could play A major like this. I could play it like this, but what I'm going to do is arrange it like this. And you'll see that's 3 notes per string. And what that enables me to do is an economy picking pattern, where on each string my pick is going to go down, and then up, and then down. And my next string it'll be down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Now the down, that third down here, down, up, down, that third pick stroke, down, up, down, that down really just glides down to the next string. It's not even a separate pick stroke. Whereas if I was alternate picking, I would do down, up, down, and then I'd actually have to swing my pick up. Instead, we're just doing down, up, down, straight through to the next string. And we'll do it again here, down, up, down, a big down there, down, up, down, down, up, down. So by removing the need to swing your pick all the way down here and do an upstroke, you get a little extra speed in between each one of those strings. And I mean, I can economy pick through a scale much faster than I can alternate pick through it. So that, to me, it's worth practicing this sort of thing. On the way up, if we're or on the way down the scale, if we start on the first string, we would just do the opposite. We would start with an upstroke and we would go up, down, up. And that last upstroke would take us to another upstroke, up, down, up. And then another upstroke, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So, since we're set up 3 notes per string, it's pretty easy to practice this as a triplet flavor. Imagine just doing 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, like that. And then on the way up, and once again, a little faster. So, I mean, I'm a little out of shape here on some of these, but you can hear there's a lot of speed in between the strings. And this works for any 3-note per string pattern. So if I was in a Mixolydian, or a Locrian, that's a Locrian right there. So we can go up and down scales a lot faster with economy picking, but I also like to see how it applies to small little licks. And here's a good example. I'm going to put my pinky on 12 on the first string. I'm going to have my first finger on 9 on the first string, and I'm going to have my middle finger on 10 on the second string. Those 3 notes give me an A major arpeggio. All right, and the way I'm going to play it is like this. I'll do an upstroke with my pinky on 12, and I'll do a pull-off, an up with a pull-off. Now I'm going to do down on the second string and down on the first string. So there's the 2 downs right there. That was my economy picking. Normally, if I was alternate picking this, you would do a down up in between those strings. But why would I switch the pick direction when I could just down down? I can just plow through those 2 notes. All right. So I would have an upstroke, down down, up, pull off, down down, up, down down, up, down down, up. And for me, I can play that faster if I economy pick it. If I have to do a down up down, down up down, I start really bogging down. So, and that's applicable to different arpeggios, obviously. If I was in C sharp minor, same exact picking, or here's A minor instead, A major. So let me give you one more example here of a small little lick here that you can play just using economy picking. We'll start with the same arpeggio, we'll do an upstroke, but then we'll do down, up, down, and then we'll follow through that downstroke again to do our economy picking. So up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down. Nice little move, lots of speed that you can throw in at any point in time. Right there, you can think of it as 16th as 1 Eana, 2 Eana, 3 Eana, or you can think of it as triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. All right, so economy picking, I think this should explain it pretty clearly, and there's a lot of ways we can use it. But basically, it's just a technique of getting your pick to follow through to the next string when you're ascending and descending. And me personally, I like to arrange certain guitar solos and certain difficult passages so I have access to that economy picking move, because for me, it's faster than doing alternate picking. I do practice things both ways, though, because it's important to balance out any of the blind spots you might have in your technique. You know, you don't want to really rely completely on one technique. And I would be the first to admit that I probably should practice more alternate picking than economy picking, because I'm comfortable economy picking a lot of things, but a lot of alternate picking passages I try to convert to economy picking just because it feels more comfortable to me at this point. And that's just a matter of practicing it a lot. So hopefully this gives you a little light into economy picking as you go forward and trek through the strange world of lead guitar. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, very cool. Now, again, I was thinking of economy of motion with the picking rather than with that. It's the same idea. It is more economical to do it that way, but that makes more sense. Down, up, down, down, up, down. I almost think about it as stuttering, like down, up, to down, up, down, down, up, and like trying to just go through it that way. But you got to try to get it smooth, again, is the main thing.
Oh, and Jake goes both ways. I like his advice that, like, you know, this is a complementary technique to other ones like the alternate picking. It's good to be proficient in both. They lend to each other.
Yep. And again, being good with the pick, being good with your fingers, being good just understanding how to slide, understanding how to hammer on, like all the different techniques, all the different ways you can make sounds with the instrument. It's important to explore them and be able to mix them in appropriately in different types of music.
And I find it hard to believe he has a tough time with any of these techniques. Him at his worst is probably still better than, the average bear at their best.
Yeah. Well, even just seeing right there, that little, starting from, dee, 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 doo, 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 dee, and then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa. Like that didn't change that much from one to the other, but it's just about, hitting things precisely and about practicing them, getting that muscle memory going, is the main thing. Practicing it, getting it to happen, and then making it happen faster.
Yeah. As always, Jake's spot on with his advice.
Yep. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
But
Damn,
think that brings
I
us.
feel like I'm a guitarist now. At least I
That's the
know
thing
how
is,
to pick one.
you let that all kind of marinate in there, all kinds of settles in, and then next time you pick up the guitar, all of a sudden, and you're like, what? Where did that come from?
Well, and as a keyboardist, I still appreciate that information because it helps me to understand what the guitarists I'm playing with, why they sound a certain way, or why their sound has that approach.
Yep, exactly. And you'll start to notice certain signature sounds, like that major sound, the minor sound, the different arpeggios he was just using right there. As people do those, you'll be, you recognize those moves, and then being able to just jump in, whether it's on bass or whatever instrument you have, being able to then fit in with whatever somebody's doing by jumping right in because you recognize what you're hearing and you're able to figure out exactly what the progression is and what's going around.
Yeah, if I know the kind of music I should be writing for this guitarist because this is the technique he likes, then I can write music more catered to complement that technique.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that
Guitar Night Part 2.
Second one
in
down.
the books.
And we've definitely had at least one keyboard night. I know we've done vocals, but was it a full vocal day, or was it more of like we kind of interspersed some things in there? So we might have to revisit some more of that.
We're gonna get some more vocal nights in, and hopefully some more vocalists to
and
come
songwriting.
in. And
songwriting.
Yeah. Oh, Ange is gonna make us do songwriting.
Yes, indeed. Has to be done. But yes, in the meantime, we've come to after midnight. So thanks for everybody for coming in for some more talking. Shh I.T. with Glenn and Tony.
Till next Thursday.
Till next time. Night, everybody.
Night.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.